Happy birthday to you.
I don't.
Happy birthday to you.
Welcome to motherfucking So to Speak. I'm Lyle fucking Groniger. I don't need to tell you how fucking good our podcast is, because when I start a podcast, I want people to savor it. But you know, I know what's on my mind right now? My co-host, motherfucking Cody McDonald, is with us tonight. How you fucking doing, Cody?
I'm doing fucking good, Lyle. I was just smoking a big red apple cigarette outside. I was chowing down on a fucking big kahuna
Yeah,
burger.
enjoying a big fucking kahuna burger? That's a Hawaiian joint.
I'd rather be at home licking a motherfucking foot.
Yeah. Fucking feet. Yeah! Today we're going to talk about the legendary Quentin Tarantino, one of my favorite directors and a guy who has been a very big inspiration all throughout my life. I brought Cody back from the 90s because, hey, Tarantino's reign was in the 90s and continued onward afterwards. So tonight we're going to start... Now, Cody, I have a question. Would you consider Tarantino like one of your favorite directors, or do you just kind of appreciate him nominally?
Well, that's sort of an interesting question because, I mean, for the record, I will say Pulp Fiction is as well my favorite film of all time.
Mm-hmm.
It's sort of the film that I think like when you and I met, we kind of bonded like immediately when we noticed that.
Yeah.
Because you and I kind of know this film so much, like off by heart, that but when it comes to him first, like for his body of work, like of course I'm there day one when a film by his gets released in theater, and I will enjoy myself immensely. Like he's one of the best auteur filmmakers out there, and I find that while I do love his direction, like I think I get what he's trying to do. He just is basically showing a homage, like basically a harmonious love towards all the genres of filmmaking that he grew up on. I actually consider him a favorite writer of mine.
Oh, so you're more leaning towards his writing ability. Yeah, that's perfectly fair,
really,
quite honestly.
It really is like, well, because like that. I mean, I know we're gonna probably talk about like our history behind it, like about more about him personally. But I actually want to ask some questions about you on whether or not you were kind of Tarantinoing your scripts back then when you were like on like a big high of love for him when we were just starting off making film, because that's sort of where I came from, where I loved both Pulp Fiction and Reservoir Dogs so much based on its writing and in terms of its structure. That's where I really began to understand like what film structure really was because of his movies, because back then it used to be just beginning, middle, and end with film. But Tarantino, literally just said, hey, what if we start off in the middle and then go back to the beginning, and then maybe jump to another completely different character that will tie back later on in the movie, and then we'll go back to the middle, and then maybe the ending of the movie will just happen very soon, but we'll also resolve a character's point of view and action right at the end of the movie, and you're sort of like, oh my god, it's all over the place. And it wasn't until later on I realized that he's actually taking a novelization technique to his writing.
Yeah.
Where books have just a freedom, and I think he even said this in an interview, where he loves how books have just a complete freedom to tell their story any way, shape, or form that they want. And he says, I just want to apply that on to movies, because it's not just because there's more stories you can tell out there than just linear, he says, you know?
Oh yeah, for sure.
So,
well, it's interesting.
I know that I kind of rambled, but I think writing wise, definitely he's a big inspiration on me. But in terms of his direction, I find that like now that it wasn't until, and I know we'll get into it more with each film, until it was like the early 2000s with the Kill Bill movies, that's where he officially came into his own. And then he hasn't really pushed himself he's pushed himself further in certain doses here and there with a few films that have come out after Kill Bill, but I feel like he's just kind of stuck to his playground, so to speak, his own little sandbox of his love for certain genres, and I find that he can flourish a little bit more, but I just don't know if he wants to, because I know that he can try. He can definitely do it. But.
Yeah, it's a good point. I think it's interesting you want to ask me about like my experiences with Tarantino, because I guess we'll talk a little bit about my first experience. Like, I remember I was doing homework upstairs, like in the kitchen area, and I hear all this yelling, you know, like all this like, and then I was like, what's all that shit down there? I walked downstairs, and of course it's Reservoir Dogs. Scene where like Mr. Orange is like laying on the ground, and Mr. White's like trying to comfort him. It's like, you got shot in the belly, but it takes a long time to die from your wound. I'm like, Dad, what is this? He's like, oh, it's Reservoir Dogs, son. I'm like, oh, and I kind of got this timid feeling in my stomach, because it felt like one of those naughty movies that are like hard R, like you're not. I was too young to watch it, but I still sat down and just watched it with my dad, and it was the first time I actually kind of took in the directive ability of someone when they make a movie. Like, one thing I'll talk about what I love about Reservoir Dogs when we get to it, but it's just like the things he decides to show and not show is the first thing I really noticed, and like the strength of the acting and the kind of like tension that builds all throughout the film. That's the stuff that really got me hooked, and it was at this moment that I wanted to learn more about this director, because I liked this movie so much. And then I decided to take up filmmaking, because I was so inspired by Reservoir Dogs. And I even, and anyone who goes to TFS, when you submit to the school, you have to write like an essay about one of your favorite movies. And I picked Reservoir Dogs, and I sent that to them, and I got chosen. And then
funny. That is so funny, because I chose Pulp Fiction.
Haha. See, that's exactly why I brought you on board tonight. We're Tarantino heads. But then the first day I have at film school, I was with Scott McSkimming, and we were just in a little bit of an icebreaker where it's like, talk to me about what your favorite director is, what your favorite movie is, blah, blah, blah. I was like one of the last guys, and I raised my hand, and I said, my favorite film is anywhere between Pulp Fiction and Reservoir Dogs, and my favorite director is Tarantino. And the first thing this guy says to me is, Tarantino is a hack.
Oh.
I think I was the only one who picked Tarantino, too, so I felt bad, because, I was a small-town kid. I didn't have a wide accessibility I didn't have a wide access to all these, like, foreign films and, like, a grander scope of cinema like I do now. But, so I was a little crestfallen, but, I don't know. Looking back on it, I kind of came off like a high school like film bro going on and on about Tarantino, because I know he's great. He's not the end all be all of cinema, but I do think he's like incredibly talented for what he does. And I do agree with you where I do feel like he's kind of settling, but I think that just kind of comes with age. I think most directors kind of stop branching out after a while. But we'll talk about that closer to the end. How about a little taste of what he was like when he was younger? So, Quentin Tarantino was born March 27th in Knoxville, Tennessee. He's a Tennessee boy. He was only child to a single mom. His father left the family before he was born. By the way, his father's name is Tony Tarantino. That's very alliterative. That almost sounds like a supervillain name, like, the evil Tony Tarantino. I'm gonna kick your butts.
I was going to say it's a very movie name. Tony Tarantino.
And that's funny because like after his son became like famous, when he got like burgeoned into the indie scene and became like a huge director, his father all of a sudden starts appearing, and he's just all like, "Hey, I'm that guy's dad," and he wanted to be like an actor or something. And he'd often use his son's name to try to get into roles. And then Tarantino was like, "I don't even want to meet this guy. I don't care. He abandoned me. That's all. He can use my name all he want. I'll always be better than him."
Yeah.
just like that, and that's kind of sad. But at least he, at least he didn't like it didn't hold him back in any way. Now, he didn't do very well in school. He wasn't academic. I think he often states that his favorite subject in school was always history, and that's very clear in his work because.
Yeah, he said in an interview like he was really bad in school, like he couldn't remember anything to save his life. But he said when it came to film, he can remember everything, not even about the film, but like who starred in it, who was the director, who was the writer. When I heard that, I kind of went, "Wow, it wasn't just me growing up."
It's like we're both like that. We have like we have like encyclopedic. I can't speak today. We have an encyclopedia-sized knowledge of like movies, and that's really cool.
I want to question something that he also said that he did growing up. Did you used to just play with either action figures or Legos and just like remake and reenact movies with these toys, or just like you just do a combination of like tons of movies just to make up your own story on the spot, like you're kind of talking with them to yourself, like
I used to do that. I remember one time I had all my action figures on like a staircase, and it was almost like a Mortal Kombat like fight to the death where the main hero had to fight every single villain before he got to the top of the staircase. That was always fun. But I wouldn't be surprised if like Tarantino did that too. I mean,
he says he has.
He has, yeah. No, I have no doubt.
It was just cool hearing that. Like, I don't know. It was just kind of cool to hear, like, someone you admire talking about how, they're growing up, and then you go, oh my god, I did the same thing. Like, I relate to that. It kind of makes you feel a bit good,
Now, here's one thing I wish I could relate with. Tarantino in his early, like, I'd say, like, late teens, early 20s, worked at a video store.
Video archives.
Video archives. Oh, he also
video archives.
It also says he worked at an adult movie theater called the Pussycat Theater.
So so his first jobs, like his first two jobs before getting his job as a video clerk at Video Archives, he said they were basically had to do with the porn industry. So his first job was that he would actually drive around with a friend in his truck at night. And those like newspaper racks that where you have to pay the quarter, and then it opens up and you take out
that crap.
All that. So apparently there was like sex mags and some of these like things, and every night he would just collect the quarters and fill up the thing with the new bundle of like Playboys or Playgirls, whatever it was. And then he was an usher at the it was called the Pussycat movie theater. Or in California, it was a porn movie theater, and he was an usher.
That's funny.
That's pretty funny.
That probably explains his taste in like grindhouse and exploitation, like in his later part of his career.
And then maybe he discovered his foot fetish in some of the
who knows?
shows there.
Why not?
That'd be funny.
We'll have to talk about that sometime because that's a pretty big part of his personality. But like going back to like video archives, like I think that would be like a dream job for someone like him. Just like being surrounded by like the stuff he's passionate about. He gets to like open other people's minds. He gets to like talk to his like compadres and just like talk about like what he loves most about a certain movie. And he often talked about like how he would just like rent stuff night by night and just watch and analyze everything he borrowed. And it was kind of cool.
Did you go to movie stores a lot growing up?
Movie stores? Yeah. I mean, when they were still around. They're the only one left.
Up, like, video stores was always like a very special thing to do every weekend, like. Yeah,
I mean, my parents couldn't always afford to go every week, but like when we did, I always wanted to pick something. Yeah.
The reason why I ask is like, did you ever come across like workers that are there that would come up to you and be like, hey, how you doing? I see you're looking for a comedy. You know which one I would recommend? And like they just explain it to you, and you kind of go, oh well, thanks, but yeah, maybe I'll consider that one. Like I was always on like the alert for those types of guys, and from what I can tell, Tarantino was that guy 24/7 working at the movie store.
Yeah,
Like,
no, he has a quote where he's like, he doesn't just send like people like movies that he likes. He always thinks about the customer first. He always like thinks about what kind of target demographic they're like, what kind of like thing they think they have, what kind of taste they might have. Like, he's not gonna send like he said like something like, I'm not gonna send a 30-year-old woman Eraserhead when she has like a mom and when she's like a mom with 2 kids, but like, you know, he'll always think of ways to like help out his customers because he has such a like a wide taste. So yeah, no, when I was I lived in a small town, so like I don't think there were any like film nuts in the video stores. I think they were mostly just gas attendants. So yeah, I wish I encountered more people like what you said, but that's okay. Here I am. And another thing that's interesting about Video Archives is that he met his, I wouldn't say longtime contributor, but definitely one of his earliest contributors. Oh, what's his name? Roger Avery.
Oh yeah, his writing partner.
Yeah, they worked.
Pulp. Yep.
Yeah, Pulp Fiction. Yeah, they worked together in that store, and they would often talk at great lengths together. I think that was.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's pretty nice. It's pretty nice. So, he did make his first directorial debut in 1987 with My Best Friend's Birthday.
Now I have to ask, have you seen this?
Well, first of all, I gotta say, it's not technically a film. It's kind of just it's a broken piece of hidden history with Tarantino, where it's like, it's what he wanted to make, but unfortunately, the entire film got destroyed in a lab fire, or mostly the entire film. I think the only thing that's salvageable was like a 30-minute chunk of it, and I have seen it. It's basically Clerks. The whole movie looks like it was shot by Kevin Smith. Like, it's kind of clumsy. You can tell none of the actors are actors. They're just friends of his. Tarantino is the only one kind of acting, and that's not really a good thing.
Oh no, we mentioned that before. Yeah.
Well, we'll talk about his acting, but
I have not seen this, and I've always wanted to watch it, but like I was just always afraid that I'm just gonna hate it because it looks pretty cruddy looking. And
yeah, no, it's not polished at all. I mean, it wasn't like, you know, transferred or rendered or anything. It wasn't like polished up to be like a final product. It's all black and white. It does show quite a few of his trademarks, though. I remember one scene where there's this black guy who's like a big, tough grunt kind of thug, almost like a proto Jules Winfield, and he comes out with a gun, points it at the main guy. He's like, "Your ass is grass, and I am the lawnmower." That's a very Tarantino line. If you haven't seen My Best Friend's Birthday, it's cute. If you want to see like his first film, it's kind of like Fear and Desire by Stanley Kubrick. Like, it's far from his best. Far from his best. Probably his worst. But it's cool to see where he started. And to be honest, if a lot of the stuff in this film was later reused and recycled in his script for True Romance, which we'll talk about briefly. But like, so a lot of the elements in My Best Friend's Birthday were salvaged and put in other works. Yeah, so it's a funny kind of way to look at his early days, but I think the film that we really need to talk about that got him started is Reservoir Dogs.
Okay, well, wait. Sorry. Before we talk about dogs, before we kick it all off, I haven't seen My Best Friend's Wedding.
Oh,
is that what it's called?
Yeah, My Best Friend's Wedding. Yeah.
But I am familiar with what he discovered while making this movie, and it's actually like it's an important note to actually bring up about him personally because like when he was still working at Video Archives, he said that he would work like Monday to Friday, and then all he had was just like weekends available to make a movie. And he said, "I'm gonna do it. I'm gonna set out and be like the first 26-year-old filmmaker to make a feature-length movie." Because he said typically all these filmmakers, the ones that he always admired, said that they always started at the age 27 or 28. So he's like, you know what? I'm gonna beat it, right? So he would literally like use his entire weekly pay and just rent all this film equipment, all this expensive stuff. And then it took him like 3 years to make this movie, and especially to save up for processing the film, because that's of course, as we know, extremely expensive. You got to like give up your arm and leg for it, right?
Mm-hmm.
And then and then by the end, he said, he literally quote, this whole movie was like guitar picks. It was nothing. It was like a piece of crap. But he said that when he got to the editing phase, he felt like his filmmaking like talent or just like strength got better as time went by.
Oh, of course. That's how it
So
is.
it's almost like he didn't even need school. He's like, all you really need is just to pick up a camera, and if you want to make a movie, just make a fucking movie.
Yeah. No, that's what a lot of people say.
And it's amazing when hearing someone say that, because like I obviously don't relate to him personally, but like from the films that I've made, I always notice that I do a little bit better the next time around when I make a film. I always learn from those previous mistakes. And of course, I'm going to make new mistakes, but that's sort of how you grow and you develop your craft, you know?
Yeah, for sure.
So I think the failure of my best friend's wedding actually geared him a little bit more towards when he wrote a certain script that caught the eye of Harvey Keitel.
Yeah, Harvey Keitel. I just think it's funny that he worked weeks and then did weekends. That's like what Peter Jackson did with his first movie. You ever seen Bad Taste?
Is it Dead Alive or?
Not Dead Alive. That wasn't his first movie. His first official movie was Bad Taste, and it's fucking great. They blow up a cow with a bazooka in that movie. You should watch it. It's pretty great. But no, this isn't a Peter Jackson podcast. What the fuck? So yes, Harvey Keitel. Well, yeah, Tarantino started networking a lot. He started script writing a lot. He started like taking classes. He wanted to improve his craft, and he penned three screenplays. I think I'll just briefly touch upon this. He did From Dusk Till Dawn, which was later directed by Robert Rodriguez, is one of his biggest collaborators. He did True Romance, which was directed by Tony Scott. And he also did Natural Born Killers. I don't want to say it really turned out the way he wanted to, though, because, you know, they kind of changed a lot of aspects.
Yeah,
but that was
we'll talk about that.
Yeah, it was directed by Oliver Stone. So he was selling scripts. He was getting paid, and he was working with. He started networking, because that's what you do if you want to like get movies made. And he met Lawrence Bender at a party, and then what Lawrence Bender got him in touch with was Harvey Keitel, like you said, and he read Reservoir Dogs, the entire script, and he freaking loved it. And while the movie initially was just gonna be like a few community actors, like nothing really huge, like just a small cast. I think the only person he locked down at that time was Steve Buscemi, because there is a bit of like a short film he did before he released Reservoir Dogs. It's like an AFI kind of treatment. It's almost like a test run.
And I just discovered that.
You just discovered that. You're talking to me about that, yeah.
Yeah.
Tarantino is Mr. White, man. I am so glad he fucking stepped down from the lead role.
It makes me like miss Harvey Keitel so much.
Yeah.
Like,
well, because he's
like,
just
he doesn't even emote any sort of anger or frustration or any shock that Harvey Keitel is going through with the way he portrays White in that movie.
Well, actually, Cody, what I think is the problem is he's angry 95% of the damn time. He's just saying, Jesus fucking Christ! I swear to God, I'm fucking Jace. Like, he's just shouting, whereas Keitel was just kind of exhausted, and he's very world weary. But yeah, we should talk about Reservoir Dogs. So, like, he released Reservoir Dogs around 1992. Because of Keitel, he got, like, I think an additional $1 million for the budget or something around there. And that allowed him to pick up a cast of, maybe not huge known actors, but a few veteran actors, a couple people who are starting out. I always love, like, Lawrence Tierney and Steve Buscemi and, like, Chris Penn. And, of course, Michael Madsen is Mr. Blonde. Oh, my God.
Oh, Jesus.
What I really loved about Reservoir Dogs and what got me hooked on to it and made me think of it as a filmmaking perspective is, unlike a lot of Tarantino films, there is a very large amount of restraint shown throughout. It's not there's a lot of like nastiness, but it's often like shown off screen, or it's just sort of implied. Like, I remember, like, the first time we see it is, like, when we see that dolly pushing, and it's, like, that long hallway, and Mr. White's kind of just standing by himself, and Mr. Pink's off screen. And they're just having, like, this really, really, emotional, like, argument, and it's like, alright, I need you cool. You gonna be cool? Pink fucking breaks something, and we don't see it, and he's just like, I am cool. And I like that subtlety. But, like, the whole movie is about restraint, because it's about a bank heist, or not bank heist, or a jewelry heist, that we don't actually see. We just see the beginning and the end. The middle is entirely up to interpretation. Like, just by, like, how the characters interact with each other, that's all we get. And that's clever, because it's a low-budget movie. Nowadays, Tarantino could probably shoot a whole jewelry scene. It could be, like, a third of the movie. But now, he had to really work within his constraints. And that's a really good lesson for beginners. What else could I... I like this one little detail. Like, it's kind of off, but, like, the infamous, like, stuck in the middle with you sequence, I noticed, like, when the camera's, like, behind Blondie, like, puts his arm up, he's ready to slice the guy's ear off. Camera, like, goes off to the side of the wall, and we see, like, some really crude spray paint that says, watch your head.
Yeah.
I don't know. Sometimes I just, like, read in a little too much on little details like that, but I just think it's kind of funny. We can't watch his head getting cut open, but we'll see. We'll be reminded of it. That opening diner scene is so nice. Just the just the way it doles out information. Apparently, it was kind of like an added scene. It wasn't in the initial script. Tarantino wanted just a scene to kind of get in touch with the characters, kind of see where before shit gets down, so you can feel a little bit more attached. You see everyone's dynamics with each other, and then.
Well, honestly, that I'm happy that scene is in the movie, because it actually informs, especially Mr. Pink, very well at the beginning, where he's going off on this whole rant about that I don't tip waiters, I don't tip waitresses. Right, and you think, and this is now we're going to talk about Tarantino's dialogue, where you'd think that this is just mundane conversations that people have, but really that there's actually a lot of nuance and insight when you really think about it, because Mr. Pink is defined as a very sophisticated, smart bank robber.
He's a professional,
and he sticks to being professional the whole movie. And what happens in the end? He's the only one who supposedly gets out in the end.
I like to think he gets away. I like to think he either gets away or he gets kidnapped. He gets captured, and then he becomes like Seymour from Con Air. You ever seen Con Air?
Oh yeah.
Roll him up, Lawrence. I'm feeling lucky tonight.
I just like to say the reason why he has so much grievance against, like, the whole, like, restaurant industry of being a waiter and all that. I'm like, was he Buddy Holly from Pulp Fiction?
Yeah, yeah. God, every time I tell people that Steve Buscemi's in Pulp Fiction, they don't fucking believe me. And I'm like, no, he's Buddy.
Because it's such an out of focus and not really spotlighted little cameo. It's just like you blink and you kind of miss him.
Yeah, but it's the voice. I can tell it's Buscemi. I can tell by his voice alone. Yeah. It's like, hey, name's Buddy.
But
what
also,
can I get you?
I don't know. I mean, this is probably something that you've obviously picked up on from the opening scene of Reservoir Dogs, when they were all throwing in their buck to tip the waitress, and Joe's like, "Hey, wait, who didn't throw in? Who was the person that ratted out Mr. Pink?"
Orange.
It was Orange.
It's Mr. Pink. Why Mr. Pink? He don't tip. Why don't you tip? You don't believe in it. Shut up.
Yeah, isn't that such great? It's great subtle foreshadowing in that movie.
That's actually pretty good. Yeah, you're right. What was I gonna say? It's
my introduction to Reservoir Dogs. Funny enough, my uncle had this on VHS, and of course I was too young to watch it, but I'll always remember just the VHS cover and back. It just said "Rated R," and it's just like this guy sitting on the floor with blood all over himself, just shooting, and just like such a bad movie, like, oh, this movie's bad,
nasty, video nasty.
And then years later, I watch Armageddon. Now, bear with me.
Okay.
There's a scene in the movie where they're like getting like examined for the the trip to go into space, and the one guy's like, if you stick that needle in me, I'm gonna stab you in the heart with it. Have you ever seen Pulp Fiction? And I had never understood what that was. And then I remember asking either my mom or my uncle, what's Pulp Fiction? And they went, oh, it's this movie. And they kind of felt like eventually I'll watch it. Like I was kind of around that age, like 10 or 11 or 12.
Oh
And,
yeah, way too young.
And if you guys are listening right now, Mom or Sean, I'm about to make a confession to you guys. I snuck the movie before we actually watched it. And not only did I sneak it, I watched it twice. So by the time that I watched it for the third time, which you thought was the first time, I had to pretend that I'm watching this for the first time.
Yeah, you had to act surprised and shocked and all that. It's like, oh no, Mia's gonna overdose.
That's sort of like, and then getting into Reservoir Dogs. Ironically, I did not like Reservoir Dogs the first time I watched it.
Oh no, okay.
No, it didn't really click with me as much as Pulp Fiction did. It grew on me way more because I started rewatching it way more than Pulp Fiction at the time.
Okay.
Because I'm like, I know there's something I'm missing here. I don't know what it is. And
Well,
I think what it was, I was so distracted by the end result, and like I was kind of saying, what did this all mean? What did this mean?
I see.
You know what and I was sort of like, I was noticing like more like nuance in Reservoir Dogs that was defining each character so well in terms of its use of flashbacks and use of its sort of like oh, actually, I want to bring up one thing that I remember Gene Siskel and Roger Ebert when they were reviewing Reservoir Dogs. Roger Ebert said it's a point that I don't really agree with when he was criticizing the movie, because I know they both didn't like it. He said Roger Ebert said the problem with Reservoir Dogs is that there's so many scenes where the actors are just behaving and there's not enough insight. And I was sort of like, that's kind of interesting, because I disagree with that completely. There's a lot of nuance, there's a lot of insight, but I think that quote that he said actually helped me become a bit of an actor's director when it came to like how I'd want to approach actors. Like, okay, your behavior, you're blocking what you're supposed to do. Here it is, but the insight is, and then you go deeper and you try to encourage the actors to find their character. It's not about telling them what to do, it's about encouraging them to find that, that character that they're trying to play, try to find that inner being. And that was the moment I realized Reservoir Dogs has a lot of that. And it's very performance driven. And it's very and it's kind of a shame. I wish I could just erase my memory and just be surprised on who the rat is. But they do a really good job at establishing that like any one of them could be the rat.
True. Well, except for Mr. Pink.
Yeah, look at the flashback to like him running in the street.
I'm no piece of shit. No, yeah.
Did you know one of the cops that was chasing Pink down the street is Lawrence Bender?
Oh yeah, that kind of makes sense. God, the continuity in that scene's all over the fucking map, but that's okay. I mean, they probably had to shoot it super quickly. I can kind of get the feeling. I just love how Pink has a gat that can shoot like 32 bullets in a row.
Now, this is why I've seen this movie in Pulp Fiction so many times, but I want you to do this. I don't know if you picked up on this, but I want you to go back to both movies and compare these two, because I noticed something.
Yeah.
It was during that foot chase scene where like Pink, like I think he throws like the bag of diamonds like up in the air and he like knocks over some guy, and one guy's like, "What the fuck's your problem, man?" And he's like, "Shut!" He's like, "Fucker," or whatever.
Sorry.
You hear like this scream, like a.
Yeah, and that's during the Butch and Marcellus foot chase. I noticed that too. Yeah.
God. Yes. Okay. There's another fucking person out there that reads into these movies just as.
Well, yeah. When you watch something, I'm the kind of guy when I watch something again and again and again, I pick up things like that. It's like, what the fuck is your problem, man? Yeah, that they reused that. I don't know why he's yelling Sally. Salad, or maybe it's like salad. Like we're running too much. We should eat more salad.
Sally Bakey.
Oh yeah, Sally Menke. We gotta talk about her sometime before the end of this podcast. Maybe when we get to Django. But yeah. Anyways, so I only have like one or two more things I want to say about Reservoir Dogs. I wanted to bring this up while we were talking the opening scene, but you know Mr. Blue, the actor who plays Mr. Blue, Eddie Bunker. Yeah, he was the only member of the cast who was actually like a convicted criminal. Like he served jail time and he wrote a lot of books when in his time during jail. And Tarantino read one of his books and really liked his voice and said, "Hey, I want you to be in my movie." And he's like, "Oh, okay, sure." And while Mr. Blue is far from like the most memorable character ever, it's kind of funny. Like he had a lot of input with Tarantino's writing, and he often complained about the opening scene because there's no way a bunch of like criminals would just sit in matching uniforms at a diner just before they do a big heist. You know, it's like, well, now they have too many witnesses, they have too many like, you know, it's kind of weird.
It's kind of a gripe I actually noticed when I was rewatching it recently. I was sort of like, wow, they're all not wearing masks. They're not like they're just out in the open, really.
They wear sunglasses.
Yeah. I'm always like, if anyone asks, like, hey, what are you guys doing? You just say, we just came from a wedding.
They were throwing football in an alleyway.
Oh, God.
Yeah. Another thing I want to say is, as a Dutch person myself, there's a lot of references to Holland in this movie. More so, maybe a little bit more so than Pulp Fiction. I'll tell you why. The opening song that kicks off the opening credits is a Little Green Bag, performed by George Baker's Selection. They were a really huge band from the Netherlands. And I really like that song. It's such a sweet bass line. I always like playing that. And another thing is Mr. Orange. His actual name is called Freddie Nieuwendyk, and that's a very Dutch name. Anything with Dyke or Von or Van, that's always, you can tell it's a Dutch person. And what's even better is that it's funny that he's Mr. Orange because orange is the national color of Holland. Oh. It's on their flag. It's anytime they're being represented in sports, they always wear orange. It's a national color of theirs. So I just thought that was kind of interesting. I don't know if that was intentional or not. I guess he was Tarantino was just jonesing to go to Amsterdam, so he read all he could about the Netherlands. I just thought that was pretty neat. Yeah, so I think I'm prepared to move along to our next
I'll say one quick thing. My favorite scene that I've now grown to love from Reservoir Dogs is the three officers and the German Shepherd.
Oh yeah, that's a great scene.
I just fucking love it. It's such intuition filmmaking, and it's just such a tense but also hilarious scene. Because like it's just all about Orange trying to get into character and try to sell that performance of him trying to be a criminal, and they make the cops such idiots in that scene.
Yeah,
but
the dog's barking.
The lack of sound design and that tension in the scene, and just I don't know, I fucking love it. It's my favorite moment.
Yeah, no, it's a good moment. I agree. One thing I noticed about him, like Tarantino, at least in his earlier days, I don't know if he like didn't play around with shutter very much, but you ever notice when he uses slow motion, it's very, very like bumpy. Like it's almost like he didn't shoot on a certain shutter speed and he did it in like after the fact. Pay attention.
Yeah, definitely in the like the famous of them all walking out of the restaurant, the opening.
No, I imagine that was shot. I imagine that was shot on a certain shutter speed. But like I'm talking like when he puts his hand on the air dryer, and he's drying his hands, and then it's like it slows and then it speeds up. The very same thing was done in Pulp Fiction when Zed and Maynard are like putting Marcellus Wallace in the room, and the jazz music is like boom.
When he slams the door.
And he slams the door, and like they use that really, really, really unpolished like slow motion. That's just one thing I noticed. He stopped doing it after a while. I think the last time I saw it was in Kill Bill Volume 1. But yeah, we could talk about Reservoir Dogs for a while. I do like the one line. This is my last point. One line that always makes me feel chilled is when not Brown, he's irrelevant. White and Pink, aka Walter White and Jesse Pinkman, their inspiration for Breaking Bad. A lot of people have said that, but like when they're just having a cigarette, they're trying to like break down what's going on and how they got out of there. It's like, did you kill anyone? It's like, just a couple cops, no real people. Yeah, like I don't know. I think that line's so cold. Like they just hate the police so much that they like dehumanize them. It's kind of crazy. It's probably why they have a character like Nash. Just to kind of say,
and,
like,
oh Jesus, what happens to Officer Marvin Nash?
Marvin Nash.
Fucking horrible.
I think the lesson here is don't be a Tarantino character named Marvin.
When I was in grade 8, my friend and I, my old friend and I reenacted that scene where I played blind and he played Marvin.
Oh, really?
And I think I have it somewhere. I'm gonna have to show it to you sometime, but it's all just one take and it's awful looking. I got like a comically huge rolled up piece of paper that's supposed to be a cigarette. I don't even have a gas can that I'm pouring on him. I'm just using a mug.
Oh my god.
and he starts firing off a Nerf gun behind his back, pretending to be orange. And it's just, I'm getting shot by somebody off camera because we didn't have a third person to just be there on the floor shooting full blood.
Oh my god.
The whole thing was just an excuse just to have me dancing with a knife stuck in the middle of you.
Sure, that's what you do. It's like, hey friends, do you want to help me fill out my fantasy of dancing with a knife? Come down to the basement with me. We'll have fun.
I'm using a butter knife, too.
You know, like you do. Yeah, there's like countless videos of like, you know, kids like back in high school or even like middle school who just like reenact like Tarantino. I mean, this is a good segue into like our next one, but I remember I made a play in grade 12 where it was called Pulp Fiction's premiere on the Disney Channel. And the entire it's not very good, to be honest. Looking back on it, I reread the script and I'm like, God, this is unfunny. But there's just like so many moments. I did the entire breakfast scene, and it's like, so where's Marcellus Wallace's missing homework that you copied off of him? He needs to hand it in for his assignment. Where'd you put it? It's like, oh, it's underneath the table. I don't remember asking you a Mary Poppin thing. Just shit like that, where it's like, oh, and then like instead of Ezekiel 25:17, he starts singing "When You Wish Upon a Star." When you wish upon a star, your dreams come true. And he shoots him with a water gun.
Oh my god, that's funny.
That's pretty. Actually, to be honest, like there were some inspired moments there. The only problem is like, I wanted my guy playing Jules Winfield to have like an afro, but like my teacher was like, no, we can't have that. It's like, but you have an afro in like the storage room. Why am I not allowed to use it? Like, it's just so we can get into character. It's like, yeah, but it's kind of racially profiling kind of thing. I got a lot of the teachers were kind of worried when I was making that play. It's like, Lyle, this is a very violent idea. I'm like, no, it's not. It's Disney-fied. What's so violent about that? I know what I'm doing.
I never really wanted to reenact any scene from Pulp Fiction because I felt like everybody was doing it, and I was sort of like, well, I'm just going to be another fiend account, so I just wanted to avoid doing all those, especially the breakfast scene, so.
Yeah. I think it's about time we go into Pulp Fiction, unless you want to talk about any of the screenplays we touched on earlier. But we could just...
I mean, just to quickly go over it, True Romance, I saw it once, it was years ago, and the only thing I remember from that movie was that really great scene with Dennis Hopper and Christopher Walken.
The Sicilian scene, yes.
Great scene, like that's such a Tarantino scene.
The funny thing...
I've watched the scene just out of context before.
No, Cody, the interesting thing about that scene is it was one of the first scenes he wrote where he said to himself, this is the best writing I've ever done. I need to make sure that anytime I write a scene after this, it's like a pivotal moment, it has to be as good as this scene. And every single script he wrote, he always tried to beat that Sicilian scene. And I think he finally cracked it. He even admits that he cracked it when he did the opening scene to Inglorious Basterds.
Nice.
That's pretty cool.
Yeah, we'll get to that scene, but yeah, that's an incredible opening scene.
Hang tight, audience. We'll get there.
But the funny thing is with Natural Born Killers, I fucking love it. I think it's sickeningly underrated. and I know that it's not what Tarantino wanted it to be, but it still doesn't matter because that movie is a challengingly work of art.
Mm-hmm.
It's such a, I mean, it might be a little dated now just because we're not really geared towards the media in terms of television and, you know, and just cable and classic, you know, things that you catch on TV.
Yeah.
But I think it's so relevant the way that it portrays like just a deranged couple that's just on the run, that's just driven by love, but it's also fueled by like just so much hate and anger, and the whole movie is literally made to look like it's a bad dream.
I was gonna say, like, I would call Natural Born Killers to be a particularly ugly movie, in the same way I would call like something like Fear and Loathing in Las Vegas like a cinematically ugly movie. There's a point to it, of course, but like it just feels like a grab bag of so many cinematic tricks. Like, it seems like every shot the cinematographer is doing something completely different. I think in the commentary, Oliver Stone had to like justify every single thing he did in every shot, because so many people complain to him. It's like, why the fuck is this shot red? What's with the projection of a wolf in the background? What's with the cartoons? I Love Lucy? What the fuck? But yeah, no, I won't lie. Like, Natural Born Killers is good. It's the one I've probably watched the least amount of times out of the three of them. I do really like True Romance. I think personally it's the strongest one of the three. But and that's just because it has a solid cast of actors. Like, my god, even Brad Pitt's there for like a few minutes.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Do you think that there's something about Mickey and Mallory in that movie that reminds me of Pumpkin and Honey Bunny?
I think that's the archetype that Tarantino wanted with those two types of characters. He wanted like the Bonnie and Clyde kind of dynamic, where it's like two star-crossed lovers that get into a life of crime, and it's all fun and games until shit gets down.
And sorry, last but not least, as far as From Dusk Till Dawn goes, first of all, Robert Rodriguez is probably like the diet Tarantino, or Tarantino Zero, as you want to say it. Like, he's just another alternative from that kind of like, you know, the grindhouse 70s love, and just, you know, have a lot of energy. Like, he's definitely like a runner-up. Not as like iconic, and as his movies are not as well written as Tarantino, but like he's certainly a very fun director to get into.
Yeah, no, I can tell he's passionate.
From Dusk Till Dawn, I kind of went into that movie with, I don't know if I went into it with the right expectations, because I had no idea what it was. I thought, is this supposed to be like the Vega Brothers kind of movie where it's just Tarantino and Clooney and it's just a crime drama? Because I'm not kidding, man. The second Selma Hayek changes to a fucking vampire, I was like, I literally thought like I was watching another movie. I had no idea. I was like, what the fuck? We're going this way? Like, I had no idea.
Yeah, no, I totally get it.
But I did appreciate that they had a big Kahuna Burger reference in there.
Yeah, From Dusk Till Dawn's kind of a wild ride. And you're right, it is kind of like the Vega Brothers, but it's not the Vegas, Cody, it's the Geckos.
Yeah, that's true.
The Vega Brothers. That would have been a decent movie. Oh well. Yeah, no, From Dusk Till Dawn is like kind of campy. It's kind of silly at times, and like I don't really like the look of it for the most part. Although the special effects are kind of like neat, I guess. I think my favorite character has to be like Sex Machine, played by the legendary Tom Savini.
I can't even remember. Like, I remember the first half more because I felt like I enjoyed that a little bit more until it just went totally fantasized and vampire hunting. I just wasn't too fond of that.
It kind of lost you.
Like, should I have been ready? Should I have watched a trailer? Know what this is? Because I don't know. It was weird.
Yeah. I don't know. I don't have too much to say about it. I watched the show as well, and it was basically just a retread of the movie, and then like additional seasons weren't as interesting. But anyways, so yeah, that's the scripts. That's the scripts he made. And there was also another movie he kind of worked on in between Pulp Fiction and Jackie Brown called Four Rooms, which is literally just like an anthology film with him and Robert Rodriguez and a couple other people. Whatever.
I've never seen it.
I haven't. I wanted to see it, but freaking, I had it on Amazon Prime, locked and ready to go. I was like, I couldn't sleep anyway, so I was like, I need to watch at least the Tarantino segment. But then, like, Amazon Prime was like, sorry, we don't. This content is not available. I'm like, fuck. I was mad. So I just watched a few clips. It's fine. I mean, it's mostly Tarantino acting alongside Tim Roth.
Oh, no.
Yeah, I'm not selling it. It was like Tim Roth, a really drunk Bruce Willis, and you know that guy who played Paul in Pulp Fiction.
Who?
You know Paul, like the guy at the bar. He's like, hey man, my name's Paul, and this shit's between y'all.
Oh,
Jules
yeah,
Winfield, I'm man from Inglewood.
Right.
Vince
yeah.
Vega, I'm man from Amsterdam. Come on in here. What are you doing in those clothes? Like that guy. I'll talk more about him when we get to Pulp Fiction, but yeah, he's in it too. He gets his finger chopped off. Yeah, Four Rooms isn't much to write home about. Whatever. Just him kind of like channeling like Woody Allen. Like he drives the scene, and all of his anxieties are just put into full display. So take from that whatever you will. Pulp Fiction, please. So after he
As we get into it, I just have to say, if one of you pricks move, I'm gonna execute every motherfucking last one of you.
Yeah.
Here we go, baby.
So after the moderate success of Reservoir Dogs, Tarantino bought a car, and he also bought a 3-month trip to Amsterdam, where he spent a huge amount of his time just writing, as much as he could. He sat down, he got in touch with his friend Roger Avery. He's like, hey, want to help make a script with me? I want to make a story about like all my favorite pulp novels I used to collect. All these like 40s, 30s gangster tropes I want to implement, but I want to make it real. So he spent a lot of time in Amsterdam, came back, and got himself in touch with Danny DeVito and a couple other people, and he got Pulp Fiction off the ground. Assembled a massive cast, and shot within a pretty quick amount of time. Not a huge budget either, just like, I'll talk more about what he spent it on, but like, yeah, he just assembled this project together, and what came out was like considered one of the greatest things in cinematic history.
And it truly does deserve so, because I'll never forget my first thought that I said after I watched Pulp Fiction. After I snuck and watched Pulp Fiction.
Yeah,
for
you
the
sneaky
first
devil.
time, literally my first thought was, well, I'm gonna need to watch this again.
That's what I said too. Yeah.
I need to watch this again immediately, because I felt like I just watched something that I've never seen anything like that before. It was like I had seen the true language of cinema just going through my ears, hearing first time. Like everybody was speaking gibberish my whole life, and then all of a sudden I hear just pure joy. And I don't even know where to begin with Pulp Fiction. This is so strange. I don't know if you feel the same way. It's like
a little bit. It is a daunting task trying to talk about it and not sound like everybody else in the world. Like, oh, the non-linear storytelling, oh, the dialogue, oh, the acting, and I'm like, yeah.
So really just kind of like just give people like not even a synopsis, but basically it's just
how the fuck do you break this script down in like a sentence? It's like.
It's a film that jumbles around 3 stories that follows 2 hitmen, their boss, including his wife, especially, and a boxer.
Yeah, down and out boxer. Yeah. Yeah.
And this is where where I was saying the structure really helps out this movie. And for anybody that would actually re-edit it and make it linear, go to hell.
Oh, I was kind of tempted to do that just for fun to see like how it would turn out.
That's what makes it work so well. Because how can you include the way that the ending was, where you're like, there's no way to focus on who we're supposed to focus on, Honey Bunny and Pumpkin, or is Jules and Vincent?
No, the ending.
No.
The ending of the movie is actually technically Butch when he drives off into his motorcycle, because that comes out at the end of the movie. That's the last shot, technically.
Zed's dead.
Zed's dead, baby. Zed's dead. That's the last line of the movie, technically.
Here, first off, I'll ask you this question.
Okay.
Out of the Gold Watch, the Bonnie situation, and Vincent Vega and Marcellus Wallace's wife, which is your favorite story?
I'm not really big on the Bonnie situation, except for the beginning. I don't mind, but it's the latter half that kind of gets a little limp for me. And the Vincent Vega one is pretty great too. I do like the I like it all the way throughout. I kind of like the Gold Watch. I think it's kind of underrated. It's the one that was actually written by Roger Avery and not Tarantino. The only thing I don't like the beginning. It's very slow. It's like the only part of the movie that I kind of wish I could fast forward through, because like I'm not a big fan of like Butch's girlfriend or the Esmeralda de Villa de Lobos character. I have a South American girlfriend, and even she said her accent sounded fake. So that's kind of funny. Yeah, but like I'm not really. There's one section I'll say like I don't really like so much in Pulp Fiction, but after he finds out where the fuck's my gold watch, was it by the kangaroo? Ugh, and he gets all mad because he realizes he has to like go on this epic journey to find his watch. Has to be super careful. Has to take down anyone who gets in his way just to get his father's watch, which is brilliantly set up by Christopher Walken in his monologue. This is so out of left field.
Damn, if your father knew that he had the Germans away from his watch, so he hid it. And the only place that he could ever hide it, in his ass.
Yeah, in his ass. And then he later died of dysentery, so I hid this uncomfortable piece of metal up my ass. And now, little man, I give this to you. Ding! He just takes it. But I love the ending of the Gold Watch, too. I think Butch's arc is, like, severely underrated, because when you think of his character, like, everyone thinks of Jules and Vincent. They're, like, the most iconic part of the movie, honestly, next to, like, maybe Mia Wallace. Like, Butch is kind of underrated, in my opinion, because, like, he's set up, he has to do this thing for more, he has to do a favor for Wallace, he has to, like, you know, lose a fight for him, and he doesn't want to do that because he has too much of his family heritage in him. Every single one of his patriarchs either fought in a war or died in a war, and he was in that weird generational gap that didn't have a war, and so the only thing he can do to kind of like stomach that ancient bloodlust is to be a boxer, and like he's not doing too well at that. So like this entire journey with him almost feels like almost a spirit quest or an odyssey where everything goes wrong again and again and again. But he's like, well, actually it turns out fine. He gets, here's an unexpected part. I did not expect him to kill Vincent Vega, in the bathroom.
I always thought like Vincent was his last thought when he comes out of the bathroom. His last thought was, hey, I wanted those Pop-Tarts.
I wanted those Pop-Tarts. You know, it's so subtly hinted at, but the rivalry between Butch and Vincent. If you pay attention, like during the bar scene where like Jules is talking to Marcellus and Vincent's just sitting there, and Butch is like, a pack of red apples, and then Vincent gets like sort of antagonistic, and you're wondering why. I think the reason is because he put a bet against Butch, and I think either Butch won or lost, and Vincent lost like a shitload of money because of that. And then he loses all respect for Butch, and so Butch has a pair of keys in his hand. He kind of like whips it in the air, and then he like walks out. And in the beginning of the Mia Wallace segment, Vincent's complaining, he's like, I had my fucking car back. I had all this time. Guess what? Someone fucking keyed it. Yeah. Oh man, those people should be fucking shot.
It was clearly Butch that keyed his car. I picked up on that as well.
Yeah, okay, great. I feel like I'm one of the few who picked up on that. And then, like, there's sure enough, they encounter each other again, and Butch is like, he shoots him with a really, really comically, hugely silenced Uzi.
Yeah.
But another thing I like about that segment is the hunter becomes the hunted. It's like as soon as like Butch hits him with a car and it fades to black like a Jackass clip, the freaking Kathy Griffin shows up, who was dating Tarantino at the time. Actually, I don't know if you knew that.
I didn't.
Yeah, no, they were dating very, very briefly, I guess. I don't know.
If you need to go to court, I have a guy that can totally help you. That guy was a drunken maniac. He hit you, and then he crashed into that car.
Yeah, he's right there. And we finally see Marcellus Wallace's face. Oh, be damned. And then we have this really, really gritty, like, foot chase. It's not, like, clean at all. Marcellus is dazed. Butch is, like, not all there either. They're all concussed. And they're shooting. Marcellus is shooting wildly at him. Butch is, like, cowering behind a wall. And he still has to keep running. And then we get to the pawn shop. And this is where the entire story takes such a direct left turn that I fucking love it. So rather than, like Butch takes down Marcellus and says, "You feel that, big boy? That's Brian fucking with you." And then he's, like, ready to shoot him. And then Maynard comes out with a shotgun. I always thought Maynard kind of looks like redneck Kevin Smith. And then he's, like, he knocks the both, he incapacitates the both of them, ties them up down in the basement. Then Zed comes in and plays an evil game of, he takes out a gimp from their, like, sex dungeon. I don't know why they have him there. I think he does it for fun. He does, you know, it's what he does on the weekends. You know, it's a moonlighting gig, I guess. That whole scene is just eerie. Like the whole, I can really feel the palpation between the two men as they're tied, and it's like no longer a fight between the two of them. They're both just like equally fucked. Maybe more so on Marcellus's part. That was a bad joke. But anyways, he plays a malicious game of eeny, meeny, miny, mo, takes him away. The evil jazz music starts playing. Butch is like, "Fuck this," breaks the chair, hits the gimp, runs away. And then my favorite shot in Pulp Fiction is when he's like at the door, ready to come out. And when he opens the door, you see a lot of shadow on his face, kind of saying like, "Oh, this would be like the wrong move to make." And then he like turns his head, and then all this like light shines on his head, and it's like, this is the right thing you should do. And he has like this moral quandary.
Stop you. I want to ask you this question. My mom and I get into a debate all the time when it comes to Butch's decision in this. Mm-hmm. I think that she believes she went back to save Marcellus, to save his own ass. But I actually think that it's a mix of both, where he's trying to save his own ass, but also know that like, this is kind of shitty. This is a shitty situation. I should probably save him. You know? Yeah,
I mean, it's his time to shine, to finally be like a hero of the story. Because you're right. I do understand that Butch really doesn't owe Marcellus jack shit. The guy tried to kill him, for fuck's sakes. But at the same time, I think like Butch feels like he can't just leave him there, and I'm glad he didn't. A lot of people say he should have, but if he did, Marcellus's goons would probably have even more reason to kill Butch because they probably thought he had something to do with him dying. Yeah. So exactly.
It just makes it so satisfying when like Butch goes downstairs, takes out Maynard, and then he's like threatening Zed. And then
you want to pick up that gun, don't you, Zed?
You're going to see Marcellus right behind him, and then it just goes to slow motion of him clocking the gun.
Step aside, Butch.
Fuck. And then you just hear, "Step aside, Butch." And you're like, yes!
I cheered when that happened. And just one moment before like we go into that part. I love this is a very cute piece of scenery or set design. I know I mentioned this in Reservoir Dogs, with just some irrelevant like watch your head, but like this I think is actually way more deliberate. When Butch is searching for weapons, there's a neon sign close to like the basement door that's lit up. It's supposed to spell something, but most of it's dead. The only words that are spelled out are kill and then ED at the bottom. Yeah, if you pay attention to that scene, there's like a neon sign that spells out the word killed, and I feel like that was intentional for some reason. And then every single weapon he picks up, except for like a chainsaw, every single weapon in that movie was later used in a Tarantino movie. Baseball bat, you got Donnie Donowitz. Hammer, you got like Calvin Candy. And then a fucking katana sword, which is of course Kill Bill. I love his reaction to that sword. He's just like loses his heart skips a beat because he can't believe he saw such a cool weapon. But yeah, no, I love the fact that Marcellus Wallace actually like lets go of all past grievances, because technically Butch saved his life. and they let all bygones be, as long as Butch doesn't, spill the beans about what just happened. It makes Marcellus... It makes Marcellus kind of an interesting, like, character. I feel like he had to do something to become the powerful man he became. Maybe we'll talk about that when we touch on the briefcase, but, like, I feel like he's gone through some shit, and he knows when you fuck with him, you're gonna pay with your life.
Yeah.
Yeah. So yeah, I think the Gold Watch is easily my favorite of the bunch, just because of like the way it kind of like spirals down into madness, and the payoff at the end is satisfying to me. I just find maybe it's not the best part of the movie, but I just find it so underrated. It's not. When I first watched the movie, nobody talked about that scene, and then I watched it. I was like, holy fuck, this is amazing.
And just even the fact that we don't actually see the boxing match between him and Floyd.
Yeah, it's irrelevant.
It kind of reminds me of how we don't see the heist in Reservoir Dogs.
Yeah, no, because it's irrelevant. The point of the match is Butch betrays Marcellus. He accidentally kills Floyd in a heat of passion because he wants to win. I guess he really pulled no stops. But it was it's because he didn't tie his laces right on his gloves or whatever. He shouldn't have it done in the first fucking place. I have a question. For you, Cody.
Yeah,
At the end of the story, when he's with oh god, why do we keep forgetting her name? Mariana, or something like that. Yeah, Fabiana. That's her name, Fabiana.
Oh no, I'm thinking of somebody else. Sorry.
Okay, sorry. So when he arrives at the hotel, and Fabiana's like all exacerbated because her boyfriend's a mess, and she's like, just get on the fucking bike. I had the weirdest fucking day. Do you think he's going to tell Fabiana absolutely everything that transpired? Marcellus is going to somehow know about it, and he's going to go back to trying to kill Butch again for retribution.
Do I think that would happen?
Do you think that, like, he's going to spill the beans and that will be his undoing?
No, actually, I have more of an interpretation behind it. I think it's just not going to work out for both of them. Like, she's going to fucking leave him shortly after, because Fabian is such a cute and very, like, innocent person that just simply wants, like, just the right man. And Butch is such a hardcore extremist, and they clash a lot, even before he starts blowing up on her when she forgot the watch.
Yeah.
I don't know, they have a lot of, like, uncomfortable bickering, and, like, their romance is very, like, surface level, and I think that's the point.
Yeah. Yeah, no, that's probably why I don't really...
Butch is like flirting and hitting it off with the fucking taxi driver Esmeralda way more, you know.
No, you felt more chemistry with the taxi driver. It's like, what does he like to kill a man?
And during that scene,
to kill a man.
And yeah, during that question, I wanted to ask you, when Esmeralda says like you killed the other boxer, he kind of says to himself under his breath, "Oh, I'm sorry, Floyd."
Sorry, Floyd.
But then after, when she gives him a cigarette and she wants to know how does it feel that you killed the man, he goes, "To be honest with you, I don't feel at least bad about it at all." And I'm like, "Well, wait, you just kind of like." I'm like, "Wait, do you feel sorry or do you not feel sorry?" I've always questioned and pondered over that.
I don't know. I think he's not like. I think he feels like a mild bit of remorse, but at the end of the day, he just. I think he's just had enough of boxing and the way his life has turned out. And if it means that he gets to do something else with himself, if it means that he never has to box again, if it means he can just live a comfortable life for the rest of his time, I think he's comfortable with it. Because you gotta remember, like, it goes down with his family, basically. They're all like fighters and soldiers and like killers. Like, I think it's just in his blood to be a little bit like blasé towards the subject of death.
Yeah.
I mean, he shot Vincent with no compunction or like anything holding him back. I think that's just kind of the way he is. He's just like hardened. He's a hard person.
And even I don't know if you picked up this thing, and there's been a theory out there. It's kind of, I guess, anyway, is that all you have to say about the Gold Watch? Because actually, what I'm about to say is going to segue nice into the next story I want to bring up.
Yeah. No, I said enough about the Gold Watch. I talked about it for like 20 minutes or something.
But when he was on his way to his apartment, and he parks the car like a couple blocks away, and he starts going through all those backyards to kind of infiltrate and get in quietly. you hear very quickly when he passes a building, it's someone with their TV on really loud, and it's like the news, and you can clearly hear the person on the other end saying, Jackrabbit Slims.
I think I remember that. Yeah, Jackrabbit Slims.
And I was like, hey, why? There's a reason why that's there. Why is it? Why are they saying the name of the restaurant that Vincent and Mia were at? And people speculate that they lost the dance-off competition.
Oh yeah, this theory.
And they stole the trophy.
You know what? I actually think if they ever made a video game about Pulp Fiction, I guarantee that would be a level where, like, no matter how well you do at the dance competition, someone else wins. Mia's all upset, and as Vince, you have to infiltrate the back. You have to go to the back of the building where the people are. You have to, like, steal his trophy and destroy their fucking car in retribution. And then you get the trophy, and Mia's all happy. It's like, how'd you do that? I'm very persuasive sometimes. Like, it would be like a Rockstar game. But yeah, that's actually not a bad theory. I think that's true, because their dancing is a bit goofy. I won't lie.
Oh yeah, totally.
It's so goofy, but it's an iconic scene nonetheless. Yeah, so you wanna talk about Mrs. Mia Wallace?
Mrs. Mia Wallace. And Vincent Vega.
Vincent Vega. Yeah.
No, the other story. Well, it's not my favorite story. We'll get to that one, but just a quick little thing on Vincent Vega and Marcellus Wallace's wife is that he's taking his boss's wife out for dinner and keeping her company while
take care of her.
And there's a lot running on this night that needs to go very well, because he's heard stories about people that fuck with Mia.
Yeah, Tony Rocky Horror.
Fucking poor Tony Rocky Horror gets thrown out of a fucking 4-story window, was it?
Yeah, fell through a greenhouse all over a foot massage.
Developed a speech impediment after that.
That's a damn shame.
So there's a lot riding on this night, so he has to kind of keep it cool. So it starts off with him just buying some drugs from his drug dealer, Lance. They're just kind of shooting the shit, and Lance is bagging the drugs from him. He says, as what you said before about someone keyed his car, he's all pissed off about it.
Yeah.
So it's establishing right away that he holds a true passion towards his car. He's like, you just don't fuck with a man's vehicle,
Yeah.
Like he holds a lot of passion towards it. And then he gets high in this intense, awesome, extreme close-up scene of
set to Bullwinkle Part 2.
It's done. It's pretty awesome. And then Mia and Vincent go to Jackrabbit Slims, and it's just like this 50s and 60s, themed diner, and probably one of the best sets I've ever seen in any movie.
Good
ever.
Fucking God. When I first watched Pulp Fiction, I was like saying to myself, if this is a real location, I want to go. That's all I want to do. I want to see this location. Yeah. But it only took, I think by the 10th or 12th time I watched the movie, like after high school, I realized, like, I found out it was a set. You can kind of tell, because when they're like doing the dance, you can kind of see the roof of the place, and it's fairly open for some reason. You can see like lights shooting from above. That's just like that was a giveaway. And funny enough, they spent most of their budget on that set, and it shows.
Oh, it shows.
All the details. Jesus Christ.
It's an extravaganza of the 50s and 60s. Yeah.
Yeah.
So yeah, they're hitting it off nicely. And you can tell, like, is this gonna go away where there's gonna be an affair almost, because she's so flirty and he's also so flirty as well. And
they're both high.
And they're both very high. Yeah, she's high on cocaine. He's high on heroin.
Yeah.
Then it's brought up, like, so this whole Tony Rocky Horror thing, did this actually happen? And she kind of feels a bit, like, offended. Like, really? You think I'm married to a guy that would do that? And by the way, like, the only thing he ever touched wasn't my feet. It was my hand when he shook it at my wedding.
Which is interesting, because the first thing we ever see of Mia, other than her lips, when she enters the scene, is her feet. And so we see of her when she's in. First thing we see of Vincent.
I'm jumping ahead, but after how the night just goes horribly wrong after that, what do Vincent and Mia do in the end?
They shake hands.
They shake hands and said, "This never happened." That's all. Yeah.
That's a clever. That's clever. I actually didn't know. I didn't think of that.
Yeah.
I wish. See, here's the reason why I want to. If I could just rewatch Pulp Fiction with a blank slate, because at the end of that scene, actually, how about we talk about like what happens like after like the date and all that, because I want to talk about the ending. So like after the.
So they do the dance off. You know, they're dancing a Chuck Berry. It's all great.
Uma Thurman hated that song, by the way. She kept complaining to Tarantino. Was like, this song doesn't really work or fit. It's kind of a silly song. Tarantino was like, no, it's perfect. Do it. And she was like, she kind of hated the song, but like she still pulled it off.
And the funny thing is that the scene was written before John Travolta was casted.
Yeah,
so
isn't that weird? You cast Saturday Night Fever to do this dance sequence.
So when we finally got John Travolta on board, he's like, great, we got an excuse to have Travolta dance again. Awesome.
I just love when they're dancing together, and by the end of it, you kind of see John just staring at Uma Thurman's boobs. He's just going, just bobbing his head up and down, looking at her chest, while she's flaunting like no tomorrow. Yeah.
So they go back to Mia's house, and she puts on "Girl, You'll Be a Woman Soon."
Yeah, urge overkill.
And Vincent's in the washroom. He's just contemplating to himself, okay, you're gonna just go home and keep it cool. Like, this is like, he's like...
Yeah, have a good night, take a drink, go home, jerk off, and that's all you're gonna do.
That's all you gotta do, man. But,
we've all been there.
Pushing through, she was wearing Vincent's coat, she's going through his pockets, and then she discovers what she thinks is cocaine, but it's actually heroin.
Oh.
ODs, and Vincent just comes out of the washer. You know what I noticed? Every time Vincent in this movie, the 3 times he comes out of the bathroom,
shit goes down. Shit goes down in every story.
Some shit goes down.
The only time shit doesn't go down is when Jules is in the bathroom with them. Unless you want to talk about how he turned one towel into a maxi pad, but that's the least of his problems. Every time he goes to a bathroom. Yeah, so if Jules accompanies him in a bathroom, he's fine. But every time he's alone, shit goes down.
So Vincent's fucking panicking. He grabs Mia, drives literally fucking full speed to Lance's house, and they're still awake. It's like the middle of the night. They're like,
yeah, watching Three Stooges,
watching cartoons. Him, his wife, and who's Judy?
Judy, the actress who plays Judy.
No, sorry, no. Judy was the wife. That was Rosanna Arquette.
Jody. I can't remember. You know, it's weird. I actually forget her name. But yeah.
I'm mixing their names up. Sorry, it's Trudy and Jody.
Oh, okay, yeah. Trudy's the Scottish girl who always gets high, and Jody is Rosanna Arquette.
Yeah.
Yeah. You know, I love. You know, Trudy does not do a single goddamn thing the entire movie. But it's funny because Tarantino literally had her there just to say, I want to experiment. Like, what if we just had a random bystander character in every scene with these characters? And she's actually considered like one of the greatest Scottish actresses of all time, oddly enough. I haven't seen her in anything else, but that's kind of funny. But
this is where Vincent's car pull conversation pays off wonderfully, where he does not give a flying fuck of what his car is like, because he just rams that car into the house.
Have you lost your fucking mind? Yeah. Oh man, I love it. It's like it's this fucked up bitch, and just drops me out like a sack of potatoes. Have you noticed this one detail where like they're going into the house? It's all frantically shot, but you see on one of the tables, there's like a couple board games, the Game of Life and Operation stacked on top of each other.
Yes. Yeah, they need
that's so cute.
To save a life.
God bless the set designer of this movie. My lord, so many cute little details that you pick up over time.
So they bring in Mia, and Lance is like, "Okay, the only way to bring her back is if we have to literally inject this needle of adrenaline into her heart. But the only way to do that is to pierce through her breastplate. So you have to bring it down fast in a stabbing motion."
I gotta stab her 3 times.
No, you don't have to stab her 3 times. Just stab her once. Which leads to, oh my god, this is like one of the fucking tense, like this is just a classic fucking scene.
Yeah, great example of tension.
There that when this movie premiered at Cannes, somebody had like a fucking heart attack because the scene was that intense.
Oh man.
I don't know if that's true or not, but like, it's always kind of something unrelated. Like it was probably just like an actual like health condition, but like the fact that it happened at that particular moment was pretty coincidental. And did you know that whole scene is filmed in reverse?
Oh, you mean the
Like,
scene where like he stabs the needle?
yeah, well, yeah, not the whole scene.
I was gonna
Like, that
say.
moment he's raising his hand.
Yeah, he
and then
pulls out. You can kind of tell by the reactions of the other people. But yeah, I read something about that where it's all
just
shot in
so that
reverse.
to injure Uma, but actually, if you play it in reverse, it does look like he's really swinging it down. You know,
Oh, yeah.
It's very effective.
No, it's super. And then she like revives instantly. She's like she's running around like screaming like a banshee.
Yeah.
It's like,
And then
if you're with us, say something. And as she has a needle in her boob, she's like, something. That was fucking trippy. And then, they look like freaking zombies by the time they drive back. And this is what I wanted to get at earlier, where it's like, if I could rewatch this movie with a blank slate, when Mia says her joke that she recites from like her pilot, like from Fox Force 5, and
Yeah.
she's just like, is like the tomato joke. I wish I could rewatch this scene with blank face, because when I saw that for the first time, I actually cracked up laughing. Because it just broke all the tension that this whole story was building up to. It was such a nice way to end the story. But now every time I watch the movie...
She felt embarrassed. You know, she didn't really want to tell him the joke earlier on in the movie, but even after all that commotion and, like, near-death experience, like, she still warmed up to him at the end and felt comfortable.
Yeah,
like, I'm going to tell you this joke now.
Yeah, it's a sweet ending, honestly. Yeah.
Yeah.
But every time I watch that joke, it's like I know how it's going to play out, and... that's what happens. I just wish I could watch that again with fresh eyes.
But to go back, just to go, we got one more.
We're gonna go into the Bonnie situation, huh? All right.
Might
Might as well. We're 2/3 of the way through the fucking movie.
So it's just you just nicknamed this review Quentin Tarantino, but mostly Pulp Fiction.
Well, that's why I want to do a slurp about Pulp Fiction, because I knew this was the one we were gonna talk about the most, because we love it so much.
Okay.
That's fine.
You got Vincent and Jules. Good old Jules, played by...
This is Jules' story. Samuel Jackson, yeah.
It is clearly... Yeah, the Bonnie situation is his story. And this is my favorite from beginning, middle to... Actually, I should say from beginning to end. Yeah, they're on their way to blow away a couple of guys. They're establishing, they're talking about what they call a quarter pounder with cheese in Paris.
Royale with cheese.
Royale cheese.
Great
They're
dialogue.
talking about, when Mia was on the show Fox Force 5, and they go into the Tony Rocket horror situation, the whole story.
They set up so many things so early on that play off in different storylines, yeah.
It's so great. They're basically just on their way to do a job, but they fill in so much, like, again, nuanced dialogue and so much mundane and fun dialogue to hear. It's cool to hear.
Yeah. Before we did this podcast, I was actually reading the script of Pulp Fiction, and like that whole hallway scene is 2.5 pages of dialogue, and they have to shoot it on a steady cam, because like that's how they were able to pull it off so smoothly. So I can't imagine how many takes it took to get it right. There's one flub near the end. It's like it's like when Vincent's talking about the foot massage thing. It's like, I'm not saying it's nothing, but I'm saying it does. And Marcellus knew it, and fucking Marcellus knew it. And Antoine should have fucking known better. It's the one
twice.
Yeah, he said it kind of awkwardly, but I think it was like the best take they had, so like they had to live with it.
Yeah,
Antoine should have fucking known better.
Yeah, he said better twice in the same sentence. I always thought that was kind of strange.
Yeah, I think that's the only flaw in that bit, but hey, what are you gonna do? It's film, it's not digital. Yeah. But then we get to the breakfast scene.
The breakfast scene is by far, at least for my money, the greatest scene in cinematic history.
Oh shit. Yeah.
I'm going with that bold statement. That is a scene in its fucking pure perfection.
That is a bold statement.
I don't give a fuck what anyone says. That is a movie scene. That is like, when I think of a scene from a movie, it is that fucking scene.
Mm-hmm.
Sam Jackson owns that fucking scene. Like, and it should have just been like, open the door, bang, 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 you're done. But he toys with them so beautifully.
Yeah, it's an escalation of toying around, eating their food, like trying to be friendly at first, but quickly losing patience, and it just snaps on a dime. Oh, I'm sorry. Did I break your concentration?
English, motherfucker, do you speak it?
Yeah. Oh, the exchange with Frank Whaley, who plays Brett, is so great. And I love how Vincent's not even.
Anytime you look up on YouTube, anybody, all these like idiot amateur filmmakers trying to reenact the scene, the one that's playing Brett is always the worst fucking actor ever.
Well, because they think it's easy. They think it's easy to play Brett. Like, you just sit there on a chair and say lines. But no, Frank Whaley knows shit's gonna go down. He's trying to be nice, and he's trying to be, like, you know, civil. But he can't handle the pressure. None of them can.
This is probably how every story of every single reenactment of that scene went down. One kid goes, "I love this movie, Pulp Fiction. Hey, do you guys want to all reenact it?" Yeah, sure. What would we do? Okay, so I'm clearly gonna play Jules.
The director's always Jules.
Always the one who initiates it is probably gonna play Jules.
Oh yeah,
they get
easily.
To overact, memorize the lines as much as possible.
Playing Vincent's probably the easiest part.
Sorry, anyways, after Jules and Vincent blow these two guys away, but there's only one more left, and it's not Marvin.
It's Jerry Seinfeld.
It's Jerry Seinfeld.
Actually, it's not Jerry Seinfeld. It's another Arquette.
Jerry Seinfeld.
I always call him Jerry Seinfeld. Can you imagine, like, die, you motherfucker!
What's the deal with shooting them? Why would you do this?
Oh no! I missed every time! Man, they need to... What's the deal with pistols? Oh, Jesus. I'm trying to find out...
And then we have to bring up the one and only flaw in this perfect movie.
Yeah, you told me about this. Yeah.
The bullets are in the wall before he shoots... He comes out of the room, basically.
Yeah, just barges in, guns blazing.
And what's so funny is that, like, with, like, you know, it comes out later, like, the movie later on would come out on DVD and Blu-ray and all these, like, anniversary things. That's such a quick, easy touch-up to do.
Yeah.
Cover up those.
No, you could easily fix it nowadays, sure, but...
And it's just so distracting. If you know it's there, it's distracting. It's hard to kind of ignore it. But, like, and I get why it's there, because they filmed that two-shot, all-in-one continuous, you know, take of him saying, "Marvin, I'd knock that shit off if I were you," and they're supposed to look over, and then they look down, like, they didn't get shot, they look at each other and blow them away, like, it's all one continuous take.
The guy who plays the dude with the gun is Alexis Arquette. You probably remember her best from The Wedding Singer.
Yes.
Yeah.
Yep.
Yeah. No, I just thought I'd point that out, because, yeah.
I think she passed away.
Yeah, she passed away, unfortunately, 2016. It's too bad. I liked her. Yeah, but yeah, you're right. That continuity error is kind of glaring. It makes me wonder: did they shoot this on a set or something, or did they actually use like some rundown apartment and they can only do so much with it?
Okay, definitely the hallway stuff is like even just the lobby of the apartment.
Oh yeah, that has to be a real place.
That's a real place, but the set itself, I don't know. It might be like. I haven't looked up on that.
I'm just thinking like a student filmmaker, like I just shoot it in my apartment or something like that.
Yeah.
Kind of like it.
Shoot it in their house.
It doesn't feel like a set, but it could be, you know?
Going back to these horrible reenactments, every time it's supposed to be Big Kahuna Burger, and, you know, Jules is trying to guess, like, where's your food from? McDonald's, Wendy's? It's always McDonald's that they use in all the reenactments.
Was it McDonald's? Yeah. Can't you read, Jules? And then, yeah.
There's one guy that's left. He comes out of the bathroom, fires his gun at Jules and Vincent, and they're perfectly fine. The bullets pass them. Yeah. And Jules just has this complete epiphany and life transformation period where he said, God did this, and I clearly need to be out of this job. And Vincent thinks he's crazy. This is just these things happen. It's strange.
He's pretty blasé. Yeah.
Now I believe, and this is kind of funny. In religion class in high school,
oh yeah,
our teacher brought up Pulp Fiction, and I was like, oh my god, we're talking about Pulp Fiction in religion class. I'm so happy I didn't skip out this day. But he brought up on how, like, the briefcase, and how, the whole theory on how it's clearly Marcellus's soul. because in certain African American tribes, in Africa, certain tribes believe that the soul comes from the back of the neck. And anytime they see Marcellus Wallace throughout this movie, he always has a Band-Aid on the back.
Yeah, the Band-Aid.
And it's the combination of the safe is 666. You know, like, is he getting his soul back from hell? You know,
and anytime anyone looks in that suitcase, they're just totally transfixed at its beauty. And oftentimes the soul is the most beautiful part of a person.
And I believe, and we were bringing this up in religion class, or at least the teacher was bringing it up on how, like, God may have stopped those bullets, but in return, he put a magic bullet, or at least one of those bullets inside of Vincent's gun, which causes it to go off and blow Marvin's head off.
Oh man, I shot Marvin in the face.
That line gets me every fucking time.
He just doesn't care.
No, it's like he doesn't care, but he's also just like it's almost like it's like Tarantino said, okay, the way I want you to say I shot Marvin in the face is if like you spilt a little bit of water on your floor.
No, it's like you got a piece of it's like you got a piece of trash and you want to throw it to the garbage bin across the room and you think you're gonna make it, but you're off. It's like, oh, now I gotta go pick it up.
Oh man, I missed the garbage can.
Oh man, that could have been so cool. I fucked it up. Yeah, so and this leads into Jimmy Dimmick.
Oh Jesus Christ! Jules is like, we clearly need to clean up this mess. We're gonna get caught by cops, you know. So they're like, okay, I got a friend in the neighborhood. His name's Jimmy. I'll call him up. We'll deal with it when we get there. And we get Mr. Quentin. Well, Quentin Tarantino played Mr. Brown, a very quick little, you know.
He's fine in Reservoir Dogs, to be honest. He delivers his dialogue pretty competently.
He's not highlighted. He's just sort of there, whatever. But then, like,
you can tell he's happy to be in a movie, though.
Oh yeah,
easily.
And I guess he's so happy to be in this scene because it gives him an excuse to say the N-word like numerous times.
Yeah, right in front of Jules. And the weirdest thing is his character is married to a black woman, like Bonnie.
Yeah, his wife is black. It's like it's like just like being angry. Like, is he trying to say like being angry just like, you know, unleashes the inner racism that's within us?
There is a reason why he's written like that, and it's because initially, I read this somewhere. I can't confirm nor deny. Initially, Jimmy Dimmick was supposed to be played by Dave Chappelle. That was the actor who would have played him. Yeah, they wanted him to do the role, and I think he almost agreed or something. And I think on the day, like a day or two before they shot that scene, he backed out or he was like pulled away for something else, and they couldn't get an actor in time. So I think Tarantino was like, "My time to shine." Never mind like what he does. So I think that's maybe why Tarantino's acting is kind of like all over the place with that scene, because like he didn't have time to rehearse it. It wasn't a role suited for him, so he had to play it because, you know, that's just the way it is. And to be honest, well, I don't think Tarantino's a good actor. I always just see him being him. But I gotta say, for that, I kind of like that scene. Ironically, it just makes me giggle for some damn reason. Just like him, like. You can tell, like, the actors are probably not even in the same room. They just put a camera in front of Tarantino. It's like, hey, just go through the lines, you know. Go through the lines. Then we'll get, like, reverse of the two of them, just, like... Because they're not in the same room in that scene. And it's just, like... It's just his inflections are so funny. It's like, don't Jimmy me, Jules, okay? Now, Bonnie gets here in an hour and a half. You gonna make some phone calls? You gonna call some people? Well, then do it! And then get the fuck out of here before my wife gets home. Like, he's so whiny. It's like you're ruining it. He's fucking up his shit right now. It's ironically bad, but I can excuse it.
We'll get into it later on, but it's nowhere near as bad as his little thing in fucking Django.
The Australian accent. We'll touch on that briefly. But yeah, Tarantino, not a strong actor. He's got this weird screen presence. I think I said earlier, it always reminds me of like David Lynch. I just see David Lynch, but at the same time, I can't take my eyes off him because his acting is just kind of on a whole new level of what. Anyway, so yeah, and then that leads into one of my favorite small characters.
Before Jimmy's wife Bonnie comes home, and if she does, all hell will break loose. He's gonna get a fucking divorce and
No trial separation. I'm gonna get fucking divorced. I don't want to get fucking divorced.
so
Yeah. So they have to call.
Jules calls at first Marcellus. You know, we need some help. So he's like, all right, I'm gonna send this guy the wolf.
Yeah.
He's like, you're sending the wolf? Oh my god.
Shit, that's all he had to say. Winston Wolfe is one of my favorite characters in the movie, and like he's like the dream first assistant director. He's the best first assistant director you could possibly imagine. He gets everyone on task. He's very curt. He's very thorough. He knows exactly what to do no matter what situation. He's a fixer, right? So, but he's so good, and he's nice. He's complimentary. He's not like horribly rude, but he's gruff too. He and Vincent just straight up don't get along because Vincent's a fuck up.
Well, because Vincent is he's just so driven by like his ego, and he doesn't want to be told what to do. He's just like,
he's a punk.
Please be nice.
Please would be nice. I'm not here to say please. I'm here to say what you want. And if you want to deal with this out me, lots of luck, gentlemen. So please, put a little sugar on top, a little cherry on top, clean the fucking car. He's nice to Jimmy. I love the bit where
Jules and Vincent get down and dirty cleaning up the back.
Why am I on gray matter duty detail? Clean up this.
They clean themselves up, and then they have to dispose of the body. It's just like Vincent Wolf is just like he has this whole plan. It's like the whole. By the end, it's like nothing ever happened.
Yeah, no, I
love.
love.
And then they just sort of leave him. They leave him there, and then they're like, "All right, I guess we got nothing to do. Let's before."
I got a little trivia for this the scrapyard scene. Sure. I think I got 2 bits. It's like, first of all, there was a deleted scene I found like a year or 2 ago. Do you know who what I think his name is Dick.
Yes, he's
Dick
in Joe
Young?
Dante's movies.
Yeah. I can't remember his name. His name's Dick
Miller.
Dick Miller, I think. Yeah, Dick Miller had a deleted scene in Pulp Fiction where it's Dick Miller.
Yes, I did.
Classical character actor from like all the Corman era, all that stuff. Joe Dante. Yeah, he had a bit part in Pulp Fiction. He was the guy. He was Monster Truck Joe. He was the guy who owned the scrapyard. And there was a deleted scene with him and Wolf just talking, and I can kind of see why they got rid of it. It's kind of auxiliary, but it's cool to see Dick Miller in a Tarantino movie, honestly. Yeah. And the second fact is Julia Sweeney is in the scene, SNL alumni, and she is probably infamously best known for her role as Pat in It's Pat. And that came out after Pulp Fiction. I think what happened was she approached Tarantino. It's like, I got this comedy that I want to make. Could you help me write it? And so Tarantino rewrote a lot of It's Pat, and he was like a ghostwriter for it, and the movie still came out as shit. So he is attached to It's Pat. Unbelievably so.
Not know that. Oh my god.
I feel like I need to just sit through It's Pat. It's going to be excruciating, but I gotta see it for myself to believe it, that he tried to write it.
I've seen so many bad things about it, but then I heard years later, I didn't even know it was a Saturday Night Live sketch, so I was like,
it was.
I guess I got to check it out someday, because I've seen most of those.
It's kind of got like this my best friend's birthday kind of thing, where it's like, I think Tarantino just can't write an abject comedy. He can have comedic bits, but he can't write a full-on comedy.
Yeah.
I just think he can't really push it forward or something, or it's just a mess. Yeah, so like sorry to interrupt. So after the scrapyard, they decide to have breakfast together.
Yeah, they still have time before meeting up with Marcellus and giving the briefcase. So yeah,
Sure.
They go grab bites to eat at a restaurant.
Get some brunch.
Unless you were watching the movie the first time, you slowly start to pick up, wait a minute, this is the exact same restaurant at the very beginning with that random couple that just holds it up right at the very end.
Oh yeah, that happened 2 hours ago.
And now, speaking of that, like when we're introduced to like Tim Roth and Amanda Plummer at the beginning as Pumpkin and Honey Bunny, you hear amazing continuity in this scene where you actually like you're hearing background restaurant sounds as they're talking about different places you can stick up, and then they're like, wait, why don't we just stick up restaurants and all that? You can literally hear Jules in the background go, yeah, I was sitting there eating my muffin, drinking my coffee, da-da-da-da. Like, you hear it.
Yeah.
And then shortly after, when it cuts to, like, a reverse of...
Honey Bunny.
Honey Bunny,
and you see John Travolta. Yeah.
Yeah, you see Vincent walk by. It's such a... Like, the fact that, like, he put that in there, and, like, little subtle things in there shows that he cares about, like, cool continuity and like point of view filmmaking.
I wonder what it'd be like to cross-cut these scenes together, like as if they're back to back. I wonder how each section would fit into one another.
Yeah.
I wonder that should be an experiment.
We get to almost like a great threshold with Jules when they pick up their conversation where they last left off on before Marvin's head goes fucking kaboom about Jules wants to now give up and walk the earth and get a little bit more out of life because he thinks I'm on here for a reason. God's looking out for me. Jules is just thinking you're just gonna be a bum and you should be working, and all that. And their conversation is very like it's interrupted too. Like you don't really it's an argument that doesn't really have a resolution to it.
Well, of course not. It's too different.
To the bathroom, and then we catch up with how we came into the film with the restaurant getting held up. And that another little Lawrence Bender cameo when
yuppie scum number 1.
Fucking hippie, get the fuck out.
Yeah.
They hold up the place. They're like, all right, everybody, put your phones in the bag. They get up to Jules, and they're forcing him to open up this briefcase. And when he does, Tim Roth is transfixed on what's inside, and then Jules gets the upper hand and takes down Pumpkin, and sits him down, and they're like, we're gonna have a talk, my friend.
Yeah, Ringo.
We're gonna have a fucking talk. Yeah, Ringo, yeah.
And then
what reference is that? Why does he keep calling him Ringo?
I think he's because he's British and he has a very prominent nose, just like Ringo Starr. I think that's all.
Does Tim Roth actually have an English accent?
Who, Ringo Starr?
No. Tim Roth. Does he?
Yeah, he's a British actor. That's why his American is kind of flimsy. In Reservoir Dogs, you can kind of hear like different types of like kind of like pronunciation when he's doing an American accent. He's a British actor. That's why
I think of him. I think of an American accent, but anyways.
Yeah, no, he's a British actor.
Yeah, Jules has a very amazing arc, and like I feel the same way about how you feel about the Gold Watch. I think Jules, and actually just to end this all off on a nice bow, because I know we have more movies to talk about.
Yeah.
The thing that's so beautiful about Pulp Fiction is that when you compare it to Reservoir Dogs, where kind of the whole thing is just the resolution is just all of them shooting each other at the end, and like no one, you're kind of like yes, they all brought it on themselves, and everything's justified. But the beautiful thing about Pulp Fiction is that at the end of all 3 stories, somebody saves another one's life.
Yeah, and redeems themselves in a way.
Redeems themselves. Like Jules buys Pumpkin's life basically, and says, and the whole speech, the Ezekiel 25:17 speech, he realizes is a lot more deeper and meaningful than just me wanting to say some badass cold-blooded shit before I kill a motherfucker,
Yeah.
Like he wants to be the shepherd. He talks about maybe it's a possibility, this could be life, or maybe it's this way. That would be nice, but it's not true.
That's not how shit is. Yeah.
What reality is this, you're the weak, I'm the tyranny of evil men, but I'm trying to be the shepherd.
Yeah, no, it's cool that he has several different interpretations for what he says to people before he kills them. That's fascinating to me.
Yeah.
I don't know if you picked up on this, but on the last shot where like they're walking away, he's like, I think we gotta get going now. Yeah, that's probably a good idea. And they jam their guns in their gym shorts, and they walk out. I don't know if you noticed this, and this is probably like a totally insignificant detail. Probably the reason why they cut was just to fit the beat of the music. But as like the surf is going on, and it's like and they exit the cafe. Jules and Vincent walk, and as soon as they leave, Vincent is in frame, but Jules isn't. And then the movie cuts to black because we're not done with Vincent's story. He has 2 more experiences to have before the end of the story. But wow. Jules's arc is completely wrapped up by the end of that story.
And
pay attention.
That is why it's my favorite movie of all time, because anytime I watch it or have a discussion with somebody, I learn something new about it.
Exactly, man. I love that. It's almost like an Edgar Wright film. Like, there's just so many details you pick up the more and more you watch it and pay attention. And I like those types of movies.
It's just, It's a fucking masterpiece, man. I'm looking right behind you is the goddamn poster. I used to have the poster on my wall as well. Like it's just
Yeah, I got a poster in my place.
oh goddamn, it's a masterpiece. I I can't say enough great things about it.
Yeah. I think we've had our fill for tonight. I think, yeah, massive success. Won Tarantino the 1994 Palme d'Or. He also won
Yep.
the Academy Award for Best Original Screenplay with his friend Roger Avery. Have you watched his acceptance speech of the Oscar?
I've seen his acceptance speech at some other award show where actually Michael Moore was interviewing him and Roger and Lawrence Bender afterwards. And they were like quoting like Beavis and Butthead. It was like really weird.
Yeah. But that's the thing. Like when he accepts his award, his first Oscar, in the beginning of his career, he and Roger Avery are totally yucking it up. They're either drunk or like pissed black out of it, because Tarantino's like kind of chuckling away, and they're accepting the award. Their speech is like less than a minute long or something. It's not even that much of a speech, and Roger Avery ends the fucking thing by quoting Forrest Gump. He's like, "I need to go pee." And they walk off the stage with their Oscars. And I'm like, what the fuck? I will say this about Roger Avery. This is like a little personal experience of mine. I was on this one little... My first set, I used to be a grip when I was doing film work. I don't do it anymore. I don't like doing it anymore. But when I just started off doing rigging, we were driven to this... it was just me and another guy for a small job. We were driven by this one guy, this one key grip, to this production office. And as soon as he parked, I looked over, and the parking space next to us was none other than Roger Avery's, because he works in Toronto. And I thought that blew my fucking mind. I was like, oh my god, the guy who like co-wrote my all-time favorite movie, and I'm at his workplace. And we actually entered the building, and I just looked into his office, and he had like a poster of Johnny Mnemonic and like Pulp Fiction, of course. And I was like thinking to myself, this guy sits here. I didn't get to see him, but like. It was fascinating to me just to like kind of bump into that on set. I was the only one taking it in too. Everyone else was like, oh, let's just drink coffee and work. I was like, no, this is so cool. This is the guy who wrote Pulp Fiction. Unfortunately, his career kind of like sank, and he actually got some jail time for I think like some sort of car incident. I believe he got into a car accident with someone. Or it was like a hit and run kind of deal. I don't think he killed anyone, but like it was just like a bad. He had to do some jail time for it, but then because like he's so busy, they gave him like a sentence where it's like you can spend like a couple days in jail and then spend the rest of it kind of surveilled, but you get to do what you do. And then like he complained about it on. Holy shit! It was a manslaughter charge. Yeah, he was under suspicion of a manslaughter and DUI charge.
Oh, shit.
In California, and like, yeah, he was like sentenced to 1 year in furlough, which is like when you're in a furlough facility, you can like spend like a couple days there because like some people they have too many commitments to like just drop everything. So he did that, and then he would go back to like his day-to-day grind, and he'd have 5 years of probation. But he made tweets about it on Twitter, complaining about the situation endlessly to the point where the judge is like, you know what, fuck you. You're going to jail. You're going to spend county jail for the remainder of your term. So, yeah, he had to spend like 1 year in jail because of that. All because of Twitter. It's exactly why I don't want fucking Twitter. So many people ruin their lives with it.
He's one of the screenwriters of Beowulf.
Yeah, I'm looking at it too. You did Beowulf, Silent Hill... The Rules of Attraction. Yeah. There's a couple things here, yeah. I wouldn't mind seeing a few more of his works. It's kind of a shame. I don't know why he kind of stopped working with Tarantino after Pulp Fiction, but I don't know, man. These things happen.
Oh, here's one thing that, I know we definitely got to keep moving.
We got to keep moving, Cody, but okay, go on.
But apparently he's credited as the background radio dialogue from Reservoir Dogs. So he helped write the K. Billy's Super Sounds of the 70s stuff with Stephen Wright.
Stephen Wright is so amazing in Reservoir Dogs. I love the sound of his voice.
The K. Billy's Super Sounds of the 70s just keeps on truck.
We're gonna go to the Monster Park Jam with starring the Behemoth. Who says it like that? Behemoth. All right.
Now
stop. Enough Pulp Fiction. Good night.
Yes, Pulp Fiction. Everyone, go fucking see it.
Just do yourself a favor and watch it. You can. Us guys, we're so passionate about it. Let's see if it's infectious. Give it a try. We hope you learned something.
Now we lead into what was initially the biggest letdown for any Tarantino fan ever. but as time went on, and I have seen this film 3 times now, and it does keep getting better and better as and that is Jackie Brown.
Jackie Brown, his only adaptation of a book in his entire career.
And know what's so funny? In the famous first interview that Tarantino did with Charlie Rose when he had a show. Yeah. At the very end, first of all, he was kind of gushing a few times how much he loves Elmore Leonard, and he thinks True Romance apparently inspired, the works of Elmore Leonard really inspired him to write True Romance, especially. Yeah. But at the very end of the interview, Charlie Rose said, "Okay, now that you've done Dogs and Pulp Fiction, what's going to be next for you?" He's like, I don't really know, but I'm thinking I might want to adapt somebody's work. And I went, wow, he stuck to his guns.
And he did, yeah. Speaking of Elmore, I'll talk about Elmore Leonard for a second. I have 2 details about him. Tarantino, when he was 15, got caught shoplifting an Elmore Leonard novel. And his mother called his shit, why'd you steal a book? It's because it's my favorite book. I wanted to read it. I kept coming in.
His real response should have been, because it's so much fun.
Because it's so much fun, Mom. Okay. I can imagine a really moody, pubescent Tarantino just whining all the time like he does. But anyways, okay. And the second fact about Elmore Leonard is I learned about this while I was rewatching Jackie Brown a night or 2 ago. He a lot of movies have been made about his work, Be Cool, Get Shorty, that kind of stuff. That's been made into pretty successful movies overall. But he at the time he was just giving his novels to almost anyone, and he read Tarantino because Tarantino came up to him personally, and he read the script, and he said to himself, "I'm not gonna lie, this is the best screenplay I've ever read. Out of all the adaptions of my work, this is my favorite. And I want you to make this happen. If you want to make changes, that's fine." Because Tarantino actually race swapped the main character instead of being a white middle-aged female. A white middle-aged woman who works at an airline. It's Pam Grier, and he was totally cool with it. He was cool with a couple changes. He even changed the location of the book, which was in Florida. And he put it in Los Angeles, because I guess Tarantino loves Los Angeles. Yeah. No, I gotta say, man, I didn't initially love Jackie Brown. I thought it was kind of disappointing to me, too. I was one of those people. But the more I watch it, you're right. I do appreciate it. It's grown on me quite a bit over the years, to be honest with you.
It's definitely, out of the 3 original movies that he's done, it's clearly the most grounded and more, more matured movie.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
The chemistry between Pam Grier and Robert Forster feels very authentic. I was like, this is clearly what people sound like when they've hit that middle-age crisis kind of time in their life.
Mm-hmm.
And it's just, what's funny? Okay.
What's funny?
Why I kind of had to I should have just watched the whole movie because I was kind of skimming through it. There's something about these 3 films that kind of gel into one because they kind of have a similar thing to it. I get Jackie Brown, Fargo, and Hard 8 all mixed up sometimes.
That's funny.
Well, because Fargo
I kind of see that.
Because it's really just it's a story about a typical not a typical but a normal person that's not really crime driven gets sucked into the the midst of all this crime syndicate, and then they kind of come out not really affected by what happened, but they just kind of move on with their life. Okay, that was that. I got involved. I did what I could. I didn't get vengeance or anything like that. You know? Like,
Yeah, no, that's a good point.
It's kind of what it does in this movie, but yeah, no, it's definitely a film that gets better and better each time I watch it. I think the middle part of it is where it actually gets really exciting in terms of like you're discovering like that kind of classic Tarantino stuff where it's all just point of view filmmaking where you're seeing like the point of it happened in the mall.
Oh, the heist scene, yeah, where it actually
like,
goes down.
You get to see Pam Grier's point of view, then you get to see Robert De Niro's point of view from that, then you see them from far away, like that scene that was happening earlier. It's like, oh, okay, I know where I'm at. Like it's cool. I like when that like stuff like that happens.
Yeah, that was smartly done, actually. Yeah.
Yeah.
It's very yeah, compared to his other two movies, like I know I say Reservoir Dogs is restraint, but like not really. I mean, it's still very violent and like graphic, but it's just like a lot of it you don't see. With Jackie Brown, like it doesn't rely too much on shock value, really. I think the only big shock is when Robert De Niro just up and shoots Melanie, played by Bridget Fonda. That came out.
That was probably the best initiation of sex I've ever seen in any movie.
They're just like looking at her old boyfriend. It's like, yeah, but you know, his Japanese is better than my English. So what am I gonna say? It's like, yeah, well, fuck, yeah, that sounds good.
Okay, and also the reason why I said I brought up Heart 8. Have you seen Heart 8?
Is that Paul Thomas Anderson?
Yeah, that's his very first one.
Yeah, no, I haven't watched a ton of. Haven't watched every PTA movie, so no, I haven't seen Heart 8 yet.
I might need to fact check this, but the scene earlier on in Jackie Brown where Sam Jackson and Chris Tucker are doing that exchange.
Yeah.
At the hotel, like that double-storied hotel at night. I swear it's probably the exact same hotel that they shot most of the movie of Heart 8 at.
Okay. Yeah.
And I don't know. There's something about the exterior shots and like just the way I don't know. It was maybe filmed at night. I don't know. I always just get so reminiscent from that.
Mm-hmm.
Kind of strange.
I mean, I can't confirm or deny because I haven't seen Heart 8, but that would be interesting. I'll have to check it out and make sure. That'd be fun.
This song 110th Street that like
Cross
opens and
110th
closes
Street,
the
yeah.
movie.
Yeah, it's a bookend song. How about that?
It's a song that like I just think of Tarantino when I hear that song.
Yeah, no, it has a really strong soundtrack. I think Pulp Fiction's better, but like Jackie Brown is like really up there in terms of soundtracks.
Oh, yeah, I mean we'd be idiots if we're talking about Tarantino in a podcast that's about him and we can't bring up his soundtracks.
Oh yeah.
He is just like again, this is kind of like I wouldn't say I'm not gonna rip off Tarantino, but like when I start making movies, like I'm obviously a very big music nut, but like I wanna use my eclectic taste and just kind of throw everything into my movie as much as possible, wherever it fits.
Of course, it has to have a reason. You can't just like take your iPod.
It can't just be here, audience. This is my musical playlist.
Let's go on shuffle.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah, you're right.
But yeah, I don't really have much to say about like Jackie Brown as a whole. I just know that like it's always that one film in his filmography that I always respect the most because it's actually just it's aged so well.
Yeah, yeah, I think it's very good. You're right.
I met people that actually consider like I mean they of course love Dogs and Pulp, like they're like okay those are the more iconic ones, but they go off and say how much they love Jackie Brown and say like that's their favorite.
I've noticed that. I looked at a lot of ranking lists and they always put that like surprisingly high, like even in the top 3 or maybe even number 1. And it's not unwarranted. I just find it interesting because like again, I didn't love it at first and it grew on me. Yeah.
Because I think all of us were going in expecting another Pulp Fiction or just something in that caliber, but
right?
Really it's not. It's really it's more grounded. It's not more. It's not as wisecracking, and it's not as. It's crime driven, but it's more like you're actually seeing them talk about the actions a little bit more than Dogs portrayed it. You know.
Well, yeah, because that's like Elmore Leonard's style. He's very, very methodical and plotting. I find a lot of his work a little slow, if I'm being honest. I thought Get Shorty was like super slow, and when I first watched it, and I actually had to turn it off because I wasn't in the right mind space. But what he does is, like, the first act's always slow. It's always like he has to set up, like, the character. He has to set up, like, he just goes about his day, encounters a few other people. They kind of have this idea of what they want to do. The second act kind of gears a little bit more into stakes, like bad things happen, coincidences happen. It's almost like Snatch in a way. And then by the third act, things really get to a boiling point, and that's when it all clicks together. So I think that's why he writes like that. You need the very glacial expansion of the world until you can actually get to a breaking point. Yeah. I don't know. I'm not huge on that, but I can understand why it clicks with so many people. So you make Jackie Brown. Was it a huge success, or was it kind of like a disappointment?
I know that I actually don't know. I know that it was a moderate hit at the box office. It got decent to positive reviews, but if you actually look at the time gap between that and the next film we'll talk about, it's almost like, shit, he took a really big hiatus.
Yeah, I was gonna say, it had a budget of $12 million and made back nearly $75 million, so that's a moderate hit, right? That's not bad. Not huge, but, it's cute. Yeah, I gotta say, like, that was a big hit, because, like, 1997, then we get into the millennium, and, yeah, early, not even the beginning of the 2000s, but, like, 2003 and 4, he releases Kill Bill, Volume 1 and 2.
And good. Here is where Mr. Tarantino comes into his own.
Jesus Christ, yes. When you look at this film and you compare it to the other three, you're like, he's got a budget now. He got a totally different guy to shoot this. He's got a full-on crew. This looks cinematic now. Not saying Pulp Fiction.
This is like Tarantino reaching the peak, like much like PTA when he made There Will Be Blood, and much like David Fincher when he made The Social Network. This is Tarantino reaching like the definitive style that we're all used to today.
Yeah. Now, that's not to say the other movies look bad, but you can tell that they're indie films and they don't have the greatest resources in the world. But Kill Bill,
I think that's sort of the charm that you and I, people like us, love about Dogs and Pulp, is that like it feels okay. I'm not gonna go on a limb and say that like we can make a movie like Dogs and Pulp.
It's nothing stopping us though.
Because here's actually the interesting theory that I have. It's easy to mimic Tarantino's direction, but it's impossible to mimic his writing.
Yeah, you're right, because like I don't know how many copycats you've seen just before we get into Kill Bill, but there's been a lot of copycats, like especially in the 90s boom with the indie revival. Yeah, like you had like Boondock Saints. Yeah, Destiny Turns the Radio, which I haven't seen. Tarantino even appears on it, but it looks horrible.
You showed me a pretty good ripoff. Go.
Yeah, Go with Doug Liman. I like that one. That one's fine.
It was actually pretty fun.
It's pretty good.
I mean, that's the thing. Like, Tarantino introduced a type of style and a type of structure that, like, so is he trying to say, like, are people trying to say, so no one ever can make a movie that's out of order, or else you're going to be, accused of ripping off Tarantino? It's like that's not the case. It's just it all depends on how you present it. But if you're having every character be like a wisecracking, gun sewing guy, but like the story is out of order, yeah, you're probably gonna be accused of ripping off Tarantino.
I mean, look at Guy Ritchie with his first few films, like Snatch especially. Yeah. Actually, I really like Snatch, but like when I first saw it, that's another one where the more I watch it, the more I love it over time. But yeah,
there's not too many ripoffs that I've seen of Pulp Fiction that necessarily bother me so much. Or maybe I just haven't seen that many. But I don't know.
I've kept a weather eye out whenever I see movies that are talked about where it's like very clearly an homage or like very, very similar in tone. Yeah. But yeah, most of them are pretty limp and not that good. I even saw this fucking horrible movie called Pulp Fiction, which is like a very, very, very shittier version of a Zucker Brothers, like, or an Abrams brother, like, parody. It's almost like a Zucker Brothers film. And it's so fucking terrible. Like, I watched it, and it's like Jules and Vincent are exterminators. Mia Wallace is fat. Ha ha ha. Yeah, no. Pulp Fiction's dog shit.
I look at this poster and I want to die.
Don't you mean diet? Wah, wah. I'm sorry. We're talking too much about Pulp Fiction. So Kill Bill is all about... It's all about the bride. The bride is a woman who, on her wedding day, is gunned down by her assassin compadres, known as the Deadly Assassination, the Deadly Viper Assassination Squad, I believe. Yeah, and
it's Lucy Liu, Michael Madsen, Daryl Hannah, and
Vivica A. Fox.
Yes, Vivica A. Fox. Yes.
Yeah, yeah, and then as she's laying there bleeding and angry and hurt, the man Bill comes along. Gives a very chilling monologue about how this is him, not his most sadistic, but his most masochistic. Bill, yeah. It's your baby. Ding, 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 ding. Then Nancy Sinatra starts playing. And that's how we open with Kill Bill. And from there, we get this kind of by-the-numbers revenge tale. She decides that she is going to kill each and every one of the assassins that ruined her big day.
It's a revenge tale? I did not know that.
Oh, no, it's a road trip movie. You gotta get to each point, she meets a new character and they have a talk and she fucking kills him with a sword. That's what Kill Bill.
I want to know if you share the same opinion that I do about both Volume 1 and 2.
Okay, yeah, I wanted to talk about this. Yeah.
Do you feel like Volume 1 is more Japanese samurai inspired and Volume 2 is more Western inspired?
I mean, yeah. It makes sense. Kill Bill Volume 1, they spend an inordinately long time on the first victim, Oren Ishii, who's like the Yakuza boss. And, yeah, from her perspective, it's told largely, like, her whole origin is told in an anime sequence. And
that was cool.
It makes me wonder, Tarantino, you should do more animated movies. Get Disney on the pipeline. Anyways, yeah, and then, like, yeah, they spend an inordinately long amount of time on her, more so than almost any other of the members. And, like, yeah, there's a lot more kung fu in that one. There's way more swordplay. And the second one plays out more like a Western, you're right. Bud lives out in the desert. He's kind of like this washed-up alcoholic who kind of treads and kind of waxes poetically about the meaning of revenge, and that woman deserved her revenge. And we deserve to die.
I feel like both volumes balances that out well, where, clearly those are the two main genres that Tarantino loves, and he wants to pay a homage to it.
Yeah. The way I see it, I think Kill Bill Volume 1, it's a lot about what is happening. Like, okay, so this is what's happening. We got this woman, she wants her revenge, she's gonna kill people. Why? Don't know. Doesn't matter. Bam, bam, bam. But the second one, that's why the first one's more action-packed oriented. There's not as much context, but it's just like beat by beat, this is what we need to do. The second one really presses on the brakes, slams the brakes, and explains in detail why she has to do this, why she feels compelled, why Bill does what he does.
I know that people say they enjoy Volume 1 more, but that also depends on what you're looking for, because the second movie really dives into the bride's character. Yeah. I've actually come to this conclusion quite recently. Okay. I think the bride is the most well-written character that Tarantino has ever done.
Yeah, in summary, yeah, sure. There's a lot more flashier characters, but I think as like a person who sets a goal, goes from point A to point B to accomplish things, goes through a lot of strife and a lot of hardships, and even by the end, she's not entirely satisfied. But at the end of the day, she sets out and achieves what she wants, and it's not like, I know it's like this modern context where, like, if a female character just accomplishes everything right off the bat, she's considered like a Mary Sue or something. But I think the bride has enough dimension to her, and while she is a very, very powerful fighter, she's not insurmountable, right?
Yeah,
she gives that impression, but
she's like vulnerable throughout. But you also get to see like her, like the scene that, oh god, this scene really rubs me the wrong way in volume 1. But like when she's in the hospital and what the order is to her,
Buck, who likes to fuck.
God. Well, like that's where I believe, like, you know, she officially not I wouldn't say come into her own in terms of a character, because that her training comes a little bit later on.
Well, we haven't seen that yet, though. So yeah, it's the first thing she does. She bites the jugular off the rapist and slashes the orderly's Achilles heel. Puts his head against the doorway. It's like, "Where's Bill? Can you please stop hitting me?"
Trying to see her, like, you know, just boil things down and try to get from point A to point B, even if it's as simple as her trying to move her leg or
wiggle your big toe.
Move her foot, basically.
Yeah. No, you're right. I do think Kill Bill Volume 1 is very straightforward, but I love the way it's shot. I love the way it's presented. It's so crisp. You know that shot in the... I guess we're just going to talk about the end of the movie, because that's the part that just blows everyone's minds. But like...
Oh, you mean the end of the movie where Tarantino proved that he found a loophole where if you want to dodge your movie from landing on the NC-17 rating, you just gotta film it in black and white.
Blink, black and white. I guess her corneas were acting up or something, and she just sees everything in black and white.
Well, it's like, there's so much blood.
Put Spear Jackson to shame, yeah. No,
and it's like, he gets around it by just filming it in black and white. But it's not just a loophole, it's just he like, the black and white has a style to it. It's not just that's the only part in these movies where it happens, but
yeah. No, there's a lot of black and white throughout. But that I think that was more just to skirt around the NC-17, because good lord. Yeah, but even before the carnage happens, like, I don't know if you saw this, when like the 5, 6, 7, 8's, the little garage band there is singing, and there's this very, very elaborate crane, I don't know how the fuck they pulled it off, kind of shot where we see like the bride enter the bathroom, and it goes at eye level, and then it goes up to an overhead level, and then it goes into the bathroom, pulls back out, we see Charlie Brown and the landlady are just arguing. It's like, oh, you have to give them everything they want. Why? Or else they decapitate you. Oh no, I don't want that. And then it cuts... It's injured. It goes in between all the dancers, and then we see Sophie Fatale, who's kind of a lame character, I'm just being honest, but she's like walking down the stairs, and right when the song is going ding digga ding digga ding digga ding, like a march or something, everyone has to bow whenever they see her. It does the exact same movement but differently. It's right from behind, and I'm like thinking they couldn't have shot this on a crane. There's way too many components. They may have had to have disconnected it from the crane so they can get like lower and in between people, but that's fucking insane. That had to be on a Steadicam. I'm trying to think of like the logistics of that shot.
Oh, Tarantino must be having a blast knowing that he has like
all this equipment
and the right cranes to be like filming all this, because like, you know, he's making a movie that's just sort of a love letter to all the over-the-top kung fu movies, and you need that sort of budget to do so.
Yeah, no, I heard, I think he said this in an interview, when he filmed the final fight scene, he had, before he could like think about it in his head, I think he had to take some sort of like psychedelic drug, like LSD or like something of that, like to that level, just to open his mind and like picture it in his head. It makes sense because it's a chaotic scene. It took like a ton of time to do all that, but it stands as one of my favorite action scenes of all time.
Oh, absolutely.
And this is where we should probably address the person behind the scenes pulling off all these crazy stunts, and that is none other than stunt woman Zoe Bell. Zoe Bell is a longtime collaborator of Tarantino after like the success of Kill Bill. She's an Australian stunt woman. Tarantino got wind of her. There's a little documentary, I haven't seen it, but it basically is all about her, like, and her dream of becoming, like, an international superstar as a stunt woman. She knows there's not a lot of stunt women in her line of field. She wants to be one of the best. And Tarantino comes to her during the documentary and tells her about Kill Bill, and then it, like, films her on set, filling in as Uma Thurman. And she appears in a lot of his other movies, more so as a bit role, but it's interesting to see, like, the amount of work she put into Kill Bill. I think this was her crowning achievement as a stunt woman. Like, my God.
It was so funny. I found out recently that she's in an episode of Lost.
Oh, yeah?
But,
Yeah, you're a Lost guy. I'm not a Lost guy.
Yeah, I'm probably the biggest Lost fan in the whole world, but I found it funny. She popped in one episode, and I was like, oh my God, I know her.
Yeah, I know her. I can recognize her from the back.
Well, I mean, we'll get to this movie eventually, but she pulls off one of the best-looking stunts in probably one of his weaker movies.
Yeah, we'll get to that one next after we finish Kill Bill, but yeah, we'll talk about that. Yeah, so Kill Bill Volume 1 ends on, like, such a nice cliffhanger, too. Like, Sophie Fatale's all disformed.
What she does not know is that her daughter is still alive.
Blah, 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 da. I saw this movie with my girlfriend like a few nights ago, right after I finished Jackie Brown, and I was like, "So you want to see Volume 2? No, thank you." What? You don't want to see what happens? And I'm kind of worried.
Well, I will compare to good old Jan. But did she echo a lot of Jan's comments about the movie?
Oh, no, she really liked it. She thought it was very cool. She loves female-led action movies a lot. Like, she loves Wonder Woman and other things of that sort.
Soul. I hate the way he writes women characters in movies. There's no soul to them.
No.
Jan.
Oh, Jan.
Oh, fuck you, Jan.
Oh, man. Oh, man, Jan. I think her name's Jane or something, but everyone pronounces it Jan. It's very weird. And, yeah, and she's known for her
Karen
wacky hat collection. That's great.
Call her Karen instead. Fuck it.
Jaren.
No, Karen.
Yeah, I know Karen, but Jan and Karen, whatever. Yeah, so let's lead this into... There's not a lot to talk about with Kill Bill, in Volume 1 at least. It's very well shot. It's very well pulled off. It's Tarantino at the biggest height of his homage. I think... The first era of his career is like him like burgeoning into like the band apart era, as I like to call it, with the first three of his career. But this is the section of his era I like to call the homage trilogy, where he just like takes everything he loves about his favorite types of genres and just like smacks them on a wall and makes it his own. He does that more in this series, so... But, like, by Kill Bill Volume 2, this is, like, the section of the series. I actually, much like Jackie Brown, it took me a long time to love Kill Bill Volume 2. And even still, it takes me a while to kind of get around to watching it. Because unlike Kill Bill Volume 1, which is like it's like an adrenaline shot, Kill Bill Volume 2 is like taking, like a roofie or something. Like, I just get so... It's like a downer. Like, it takes so long to get into the motions. Its pacing is incredibly slow compared to Kill Bill Volume 1.
When she finally gets to Bill, like I can see how people can be a little disappointed from how anticlimactic and slow.
I've heard that, yeah, and I won't lie, I felt the same. But it makes the more times you pay attention to the dialogue, it's more of an emotional battle than a
like it dives into her character a little bit more. And so one thing I'll say about the first movie that is more reinforced in the second one is that anytime she has a chance to save a child or somebody who's innocent, she'll go for it. Like after that crazy fight scene at the end, there's clearly
the last guy standing.
The last guy standing is clearly a kid, and she's like, "Go home to your parents, basically.
Go home to your mother." It's like, ah!
And that beginning scene where she's fighting Vivier Fox, the second her daughter comes home after school, it's like they stop,
Yeah, and she has to apologize to her as soon as she witnesses her mother dying before her very eyes. It's like, if you still feel raw about it, I'll be waiting. That's gonna lead into Kill Bill Volume 3, perhaps.
This movie, I feel like it's like a real person stuck in such an extreme world. That's why I think it's such a well written character, and I actually defend the fact how it gets resolved by the end, because if it's a real person, it wouldn't be as extravagant as as you would think in your mind. It gets the extravagant stuff over with first, because all she's doing is fighting off the cohorts or the henchmen of Bill.
Yeah.
And all it feels like Ken father at that point. But then she gets to Bill, and it's a little bit more deeper and emotional. It's like, well, how can we top everything that you've just seen? Like she fucking rips the eye out of
Daryl Hannah, yeah.
Daryl Hannah, the other eye, the remaining eye, and just lets her like just flail crazy on the ground
With a black mamba on the floor. Yeah, you realize that Bud?
Did she kill Michael Madsen again?
She doesn't actually. Michael Madsen's he's the only character to defeat the bride and almost kill her. He's like the second. He's probably the closest next to like Gogo Yubari. He's the only one to defeat her, and he's the only one of the 5 who doesn't. Well, I guess technically Elle Driver, but like Elle Driver at least gets defeated by the bride. He's the only one who doesn't technically fight Beatrice. He like gets killed by Elle Driver. He gets betrayed by her. Because he gets like a ton of money for like kind of killing the bride, presumably. Yeah. And Elle Driver's mad because like I wanted to have the satisfaction. She puts a black mamba snake in the bag of money and he bites him several times and he dies from venom. Yeah, I liked Bud. He was like, I should make a top 10 list of Bud characters because I seem to like a lot of characters named Bud. I don't know. Yeah. But like that would be a funny like joke video or something. But like anyways, moving back on, Elle Driver gets defeated in probably the most action-packed scene in the movie, where they're fighting not in a big open like dining area, but just this really compact trailer, where like they try to even draw their weapons and they hit a wall and it throws off their timing.
Was that Sam Jackson in the church?
Yeah, Rufus. He's the man.
Yeah, I forgot that he was in it, but when I saw that scene, I was like, I know that voice.
Oh, yeah. A lot of fans like to say that when Jules Winfield walked the earth, he changed his name to Rufus and sang in a church. And got killed by a bunch of random people.
There is a theory out there that knows how to tie all of his movies together, so I'll believe in some of it.
Yeah, no, there's a lot of speculations about the Tarantino universe. It's almost like the View Askew-niverse. In a way, by Kevin Smith. But yeah, Kill Bill Volume 2 ends on like a really big verbal confrontation between Bill and Beatrice Kiddo, whose name is finally revealed. She finally remembers who she is. And she finally gets to see her daughter in the flesh. And she has so many like conflicting emotions about taking down Bill, but she knows she has to do her unfinished business. And it even like almost culminates in a monologue by Bill where he talks about Superman. And that was such a good monologue. That's one of my favorite monologues by Tarantino, that I actually read it in like a giant drama showcase in my high school. This was the same time I was doing the Disney-fied Pulp Fiction thing. I did a lot of that. I did the monologue for that, and a lot of people loved it, and they were like, "You came off so natural." And I love that monologue a lot. And the final battle between Bill and Beatrice is pretty quick. It's less than like a minute and a half long. And the way she finishes him off, she doesn't even use her sword. She uses the five palm exploding heart technique, which sounds like something straight out of Mortal Kombat. But it's kind of symbolic in a way, because it's like she leaves Bill with a broken heart, and he takes his last steps to the end of his life, or something like along those lines. He's a dead man walking by the end of it. So yeah, that's kind of cute. And then the movie, like, she takes her daughter home, and she's ready to live a life of peace. But it's not going to be that simple. So I have a question. If they made a Kill Bill Volume 3, they're going to have Sophie Fatale and the remaining Crazy 88. They're going to have a totally blind Elle Driver, and they're going to have a young Nikki, who's now an adult woman, hell-bent on revenge. They'll probably cast Zendaya or somebody to play her. And it's just going to be like Kill the Bride or something, or Here Comes the Bride, Kill Bill Volume 3. And I don't want that to happen, because that would mean it would be Tarantino's last movie, and I was just like, no. I don't want it. I can just speculate. It can be in my mind. I'll play that movie in my mind, and we'll see. I can just imagine how it would go down and I don't need Tarantino to validate that storyline because it's not necessary. It's like the Vega brothers. It's like it's cute, but it doesn't need to happen.
Yeah, if you're gonna ask like if I would want to see that, the answer is no, because exactly from what you just said, like if you can predict a Tarantino movie in your head before seeing it, that's not a good sign.
No, it's not. It's what fans want.
He makes some of the most original movies out there, and still like proves that originality can still exist out there. That the fact that you can predict something of his is not really a good idea, and just the fact that like Kill Bill was it's one movie. It just happens to be 2 volumes.
Yeah.
You know, and the story was ended. It was concluded. You know, it doesn't have to be all the loose ends don't need to be completely tied up.
Exactly.
The whole point of it was to get some sort of revenge and to reach her goal, which she does. But instead of actually living with so much vengeance in her life to actually do that, she's actually rewarded in the end and actually gets her daughter back.
Yeah, exactly. That's fine. If you want to make fan fiction, go ahead. But honestly, I think Tarantino can go on. He can move on and do something better with his time. Which isn't necessarily what he did after he finished Kill Bill. So after the success of the Kill Bill franchise and after Robert Rodriguez's success with Sin City, he and his buddy Quentin decided, hey, you remember those shitty movies from the 70s that people just threw together back in the day? The exploitation, the slasher, the muscle car films of the 70s. Why don't we make a tribute to that and call it Grindhouse?
Yeah.
And
Can this be the shortest?
Oh, this is going to be the shortest. I don't like Grindhouse. It's cute.
Wait. So there's actually, you have to rate it this way. Do you like Grindhouse, the experience of watching both Death Proof and Planet Terror, or are you judging both films on their own merits? Okay.
I kind of like Planet Terror on a sheer, like, ew spectacle. Like, it's a gross movie. It's very, very dirty and grimy. And there's a lot of moments to just make you go, ick. And I'm a huge zombie aficionado, so it's kind of cool to see all the little bits that he puts in there. I don't think it's a great movie. I think it's probably Tarantino's worst performance as a rapist zombie. But, you know, where his balls literally melt off his body. But whatever. Yeah. And he gets shot in the dick with a rocket. But whatever. Planet Terror, like, is fun. It's pulpy thrills. It is what it is. Doesn't try to be anything more than it wants to be. And I do like Rose McGowan in it, to be honest. And, you know, it's a pulpy Rodriguez movie. It's what he's best at. And then, my favorite part of Grindhouse is not even the 2 movies itself. It's the fucking fake trailers, man. They get...
Funny thing, I enjoy Machete way more than these movies.
Yeah, Machete's pretty fun, quite honestly.
And as well as, I actually really enjoyed Hobo with a Shotgun.
Yeah, Hobo with a Shotgun was good, too. Nice little Canadian entry in the list. Yeah, they got so many people to do these trailers. They got Rodriguez went again to do Machete. They got Rob Zombie doing Werewolf Women of the SS, which is a total Rob Zombie movie. I just like see it in all of a sudden.
I would so see that.
And then there's Don't, which is like a parody of 70s Hammer films, which was directed by Edgar Wright. I didn't even know Edgar Wright did that one. I was just like, what is this? And it's like, oh. He's just doing his own little British take on Grindhouse. And you have Eli Roth's like Thanksgiving slasher movie. It's like, we got every other holiday, let's throw Thanksgiving in the ring. Why not? And then there's like Hobo with a Shotgun, which is directed by I always forget his name. Jason Eisner. Yeah. He's a really good Canadian horror director. I hope he makes a lot more stuff in the end. Throughout his career. So Grindhouse as an experience, it's cute, it's nice, it's neat. I'm glad like these guys put so much time and passion into it. But I don't like it. I don't mind Planet Terror, but Death Proof, hand to God, I can't sit through it. I tried.
I don't hate it as much as you.
I know.
I can watch it. It's
you can
definitely
watch it.
Watchable. It's definitely him not trying as hard, and I hate saying that because he puts his heart and soul into his films, and he loves movies. That's why
He does.
You can
He
tell he's
loves
a
movies.
filmmaker who loves movies.
He put a lot of himself. He put a lot of himself into this movie. I don't know if you know this. He directed it. He wrote it. He produced it, and he was even the cinematographer for it.
Oh wow!
It's like he was trying to pull off a Rodriguez. Like he wanted to wear so many hats for this movie. So I can tell it is his movie. But I'm astounded that not a lot happens. There's a lot of really clunky dialogue scenes that are really hard to sit through. It doesn't pick up until like Kurt Russell shows up in his icy hot jacket as stuntman Mike that I'm kind of like, okay. I love Kurt Russell. He's one of my favorite actors. But like, he's playing this evil son of a bitch who just loves to kill women in his car. And he's like, you know what I said? Hey, Pam, remember when I said this car was 100% death proof? Well, it is. But in order to get the full experience of that, honey, you really gotta be in my seat.
I've only seen this movie once, and the only two things I remember from this movie were there's a Tarantino 360 around the table conversation.
Yeah.
Because that's like a signature thing.
I guess.
And just the famous Zoe Bell on the fucking hood of the car.
All right, I'll give it this. Zoe Bell shines in this movie. She's so great in it.
That was an incredible stunt. I will say that, and I remember it because it's very memorable.
And it's real. It's done practically. There's nothing like. It's just her and her ability to be a stunt woman that pulls off that scene so well. It's a testament to stunts. I think it's a real testament to stunt filmmaking and like practical effects. I'll give it that. Death Proof has a really good ending. It's just I don't remember much else. It takes so long to get going. When I tried rewatching it, I'm like, okay, I think I remember this being one of the shorter Tarantino's movies, and it's like 2 hours long. And I'm like, oh hell no.
I will say for Grinos, if they ever are going to play these two movies as a double feature at the drive-in, I'm there.
Oh yeah, you want to have that kind of experience with Grinos.
I want to get like that full experience because that's what they were trying to do. Is to all those like trashy 70s low budget movies from the 70s. It's a passionate, but it's sort of like a okay, who cares by the end kind of experience.
Yeah, again, it's kind of like Reservoir Dogs where it just kind of ends on the guys just die. And in the end, they just kill Stuntman Mike. It's like, yay! Yeah, it's on a cheesy freeze frame. And I just felt nothing by the end.
Now, for this next film, Lyle,
I will say this. Before we get in, I will say this. Tarantino has admitted to himself and on interviews that Death Proof is, by and large, his worst movie. But he did say that if this is his worst movie, I'm still pretty proud of it. So I'll give him credit. He knows that, he kind of made a flub, but at least he's still happy with how it turned out in the end. Yeah. I guess that's all you can ask for. But yes. So after the disappointment of Death Proof, didn't make a lot, and they get bombed actually. He went on to make what might just be his masterpiece.
Oh, damn it! I wanted to say that!
Sorry. Inglorious Basterds.
Inglorious Basterds. Oh, boy. Talk about rewriting history.
Yeah. Oh, man.
Yeah, this movie is quite the fucking gem.
Is it even a gem? Like, when I hear the word gem, I think of a movie that's kind of, like, undersold, like a movie that's not talked about, but I don't know. I think Inglorious Basterds just stands on its own as being, like, one of his best works. Like, especially after, like... This is where I think we go into his third and, so far, final era, where it's, like, the alternative history era. The historic period era.
I mean, I'll disagree slightly with that because...
I don't know.
Yeah, because I actually look at Inglorious Basterds, Django, and Once Upon a Time in Hollywood as him ripping out the pages in history and saying, no, this is how history is written.
Yeah, but that's what I mean. Like Kill Bill, Death Proof are like him just paying homage, but like with Inglorious Basterds, Django, and all that, it's him playing with history.
Oh, sorry, yeah.
And Hateful Eight. Sorry, that's right. And this is the longest era, I'd say. It's like his last 4 films have been nothing but period dramas set in alternate timelines. So that's why I call it like the historic era.
Yeah.
Sorry, I didn't mean to be misconstrued. Yeah, I know Inglorious Basterds works so well. I love I love the opening scene. Everyone loves the opening scene. It's probably like next to the breakfast scene, probably one of his greatest triumphs.
I would have to agree on that.
Holy crap. Like, talk about Hitchcock, man. Talk about, like, Sergio Leone, and just, like, how you have this tension, like, underneath the floorboards where it's, like, this Nazi is, like, trying to hunt Jews, and, like, there's a whole bunch of them down under the floorboards, like, waiting, like, in dreaded anticipation for him to go away.
And Christoph Waltz.
Oh.
Hey, where have you been all my life?
You know, I like how Reservoir Dogs wouldn't have existed without Keitel, just because he funded the movie and got it out there. If it wasn't for Christoph Waltz, this movie wouldn't have been made. Tarantino stated that he could not find a person to play Hans Landa. He was trying so hard, and every single person couldn't do it. And it's a hard role. He's not bilingual. He can speak like several languages fluently. He can speak Italian, French, German, English, Spanish. He can do all that fluently. And he has so many emotional highs and lows throughout a single scene where it's like he's all cute and kind of, it's almost like the Jules Winfield thing where he's like kind of disarming with he's killing them with kindness basically. He's being all polite and civil, but when he wants something or if he knows something's up, he shifts on a dime and slowly becomes a menace. So yeah, and like if Tarantino couldn't find anyone to cast, he wouldn't have made it because yeah, it's too hard of a character. But Christoph Waltz filled those boots nicely, and that was like the first thing I ever saw him in. I don't know what he did before then. I don't think he was acting much.
Yeah, I think this might have been the first thing I've ever seen him in as well, and I don't remember looking him up afterwards, seeing if he had other things. But yeah, man, when I said by gem, it's like. I liked this movie when I first saw it, but then this is one of those situations where by a second viewing, I fucking loved it.
That's great.
Like, because it could just be a gem to certain people because this is such a dry movie. And it's comedy, and it's so obvious what it is, and I love how Tarantino, when it came to like this era that he's in of him kind of rewriting history, he's not showing any contempt for his audience. He's actually respecting his audience, knowing that we know. It's basically saying, look, guys, I know that you guys are smart enough to know that all this stuff never happened. So why don't we just make up like a fairy tale fantasy?
Yeah.
About just like what, and he does this throughout all three of these movies, and we'll talk about them with Django and Hollywood, where he takes the worst types of people that are notoriously hated by mankind and just treats them like fucking idiots and has the most worst, brutal deaths happen to them as if a way where it's like, we wish that would have happened instead.
Yes. When I saw that ending with like the theater in flames, and it blew up, I clapped out loud and cheered. And I had to rewind it and watch the entire sequence again because it was so utterly satisfying.
And even his strength as a filmmaker, just like you said, like he had Christoph Waltz coming on, and he knows how to speak all these fluent languages. His strength as a linguistic filmmaker is really prevalent here.
Mm-hmm.
So you get so many stretches, like all these stories with the French girl and
Shoshana.
Yeah, I was trying to remember her name.
Shoshana.
You get all these stories with her, and she's so wonderful in this movie, and it just made me think of like how, like Spielberg, his strength when he did Schindler's List, where most of the movie was all in another language.
Yeah, I remember I was in school when this movie came out. I was in high school, and I was telling all my friends, like, you really need to see this. It's really, really great. And a lot of people who weren't so much my friends were like, I don't want to watch it. I'm like, why not? Because it's all subtitled. I'm like, fuck, just take a watch. Just experience it, you know?
Mm-hmm.
Oh, you have to read. Boo-hoo. You're getting so much more out of it if you just sit down and take it in. Like, oh my god. The ignorance of some people.
I've always said this to people, if you're watching a really great foreign film and you're into the story and you have to read it, you're not even realizing that you're reading it.
Yeah, no, exactly. Oh, we haven't even mentioned the bastards yet. There's like a whole battalion of Jewish Americans who infiltrate Europe, like Nazi infested Europe, and they're just like ripping every Nazi they see to shreds and scalping them and
My
gathering.
name is Lieutenant Aldo Rain, and your job here is to get, what was it, 20 scalps?
Each and every man in my battalion owes me 100 Nazi scalps, and I don't want my scalps.
This is like one of those few moments where I have to say I love Eli Roth, because usually I don't. I think he's a Tarantino wannabe with his movies, but
Well, yeah, they're friends
seeing
too.
him act in this movie is hilarious, and it's wonderful.
Yeah, no, like, and you know what's funny? Originally, that role was gonna go to Adam Sandler.
Really?
Did you know that? Yeah, Adam Sandler was almost cast in that role. I don't.
So you would have had Adam Sandler and Mike Myers in the same movie.
Yeah, Mike Myers is in the movie too for a bit. That was when his career was like falling.
I completely forgot Michael Fassbender was in this too.
Oh, really? I think it was the first thing I ever saw him in.
I think the first thing I ever saw him in was X-Men First Class, actually, and then I started seeing him a lot in these like Shame and
and
all the Steve McQueen stuff
and Frank and stuff like that. Yeah.
Hey, spoilers for Frank.
Oh, yeah, he's in the poster, whatever. Yeah, but like, well, going back to the best, I love how they got. I don't know if you ever watched The Office.
Oh, B.J. Novak.
Yeah,
right?
B.J. Novak. Ryan from The Office is like one of the bastards, and he doesn't really do much of anything, but like by the end of the movie, he's one of the last ones standing, and he's just like hanging out, being kind of like Aldo Rain's sidekick. And my favorite bit with him is when they capture Landa, and he's like scalping away one of the people they captured. He's like, you know, I think I got myself a deal. You think that sounds pretty reasonable? And B.J. Novak's just looking up while scalping the guy's like, yeah, that sounds pretty reasonable.
Oh, the scalping at the end is pretty brutal.
Yeah, and they call you the little man. I'm the little man? Yes, I think that's a bit of an overstatement. I mean, you're short for a man, but you're no circus freak.
Do you think tone-wise, it's or not even tone-wise, maybe tone-wise, but do you think it's the modern-day Doctor Strangelove?
Oh, that's interesting. I mean, the thing with Doctor Strangelove is that it came out in the process of the Cold War, so that's why it was so, like, cutting edge and controversial for its time.
Yeah.
World War II was, like, a long time ago by the time this was released, but, yeah, it's definitely a satire. It definitely pokes fun at a lot of the traditions and things that the Germans held so dear during that wartime. It showed, like, wartime in France and how it was when it was being occupied, and it's certainly funny to see like how cinema is what ultimately ended up killing the Nazis, which is hilarious because they used cinema as like a means of a weapon themselves when they used it as propaganda. So to see it blow back in their faces literally is fucking amazing. I do like that.
Appears on the screen and then it's like instantly right away they know, wait, this is not part of the movie.
Yeah, and she just proudly proclaims, "Yes, I am a Jew, and you shall all burn." Marcel, oui, Shoshana.
Honestly, man, it's one of these movies where you know how you say like it's so great, then you wait a while, and then you kind of forget why it's so great. But when you watch it again, you're like, I forgot most of this. That it kind of feels like I'm watching it again for the first time.
Yeah. No,
it's
yeah.
kind of like one of those movies. I love it. Yeah.
I think I'm gonna rewatch it after we're done with this podcast because now I just want to watch it again.
It's the one that where I was actually before this podcast I was skimming through most of his movies to refresh my memory.
Yeah.
Bastards is the one movie that I kind of wish I watched the entire film.
Yeah. No, it's so good from beginning to end. Yeah. I think just one bit I always thought was funny is like the most hilarious bit is when Brad Pitt and his like remaining bastards have to pretend to be Italian to get into this premiere. And none of them can speak Italian. Like, Aldo boasts that he can speak the most Italian, but his goddamn American accent is so solid. It's just like he sounds like a parody, like a Looney Tunes character. He's like, Buongiorno, grazie, arrivederci. And then, like, Eli Roth boasts of being the second most strongest at Italian, but he's too aggressive with his enunciations. It's like Margaretti, and it doesn't come off as natural or authentic. And then Omar Doom, who's just like another Tarantino collaborator. He's the third guy who speaks no Italian. Just says it naturally and cleanly. He's succinct. And Christoph Waltz is like, bueno. Perfect. I just love it. That whole exchange with them pretending to be Italian. Oh my god.
Did he get nominated or did he win for this movie? I know he won for Django for screenplay, but did he win something for this?
That's a good question. I hope so. I don't think... I know Christoph Waltz won best supporting actor.
Deservedly deserves it 100%.
That's the only Oscar this film won. Oh my god. Yeah, because it was nominated for like 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8 categories, and the only thing it won was like best supporting actor. That's well deserved, but I mean,
and now before we progress, we do have to give a great little homage to Sally Menke, because this was unfortunately her last film.
Sally Menke, who at the time edited every single one of his films from the beginning with Reservoir Dogs. I wonder if she's the one who convinced Tarantino to go through a non-linear storytelling approach. Like, I wonder if she was the one who encouraged him, or if he was the one who came up with that. I feel like it must have been a discussion they had at the time. Because, like, yeah, she assembled everything herself.
I just looked this up right before she started being Tarantino's go-to editor. She was one of the 3 writers for the Ninja Turtles movie in 1990.
Oh, yeah, I remember that.
That's amazing.
Yeah.
You gotta see it somewhere.
Yeah, I remember she was... I can't believe that she worked on that. I think she edited it, too. That's crazy.
Like, she's a very big part in his movies.
Mm-hmm. I do feel like there's something missing in the latter half of his career, like after she passed away. Just a little bit of something feels like missing, you know. It's unfortunate, but because her death was kind of like an accident too. I think she just died while hiking or something. Like they just found her body. Like there's somewhere.
It was a heart stroke.
Yeah, it was a stroke, I think. And like her dog, she was walking her dog, and they found her dog like next to her body when they found her. That sucks. That's so sad. Yeah. It reminds me of Scorsese and his editor, Barbara Schumacher, I think. Hold on. Yeah, because like she collaborates with Scorsese a lot. And I gotta say, like, a lot of people say, like, a lot of... Thelma Schumacher, sorry. Yeah, like, a lot of people say, like, directors, like, always want to work with the same actors, but hardly is editing never put into question, because, yeah, I feel like, if you can find a good editor who jives with your thought process, that's instrumental sometimes. People always look like cinematographers or actors, but editors, I feel, are pretty important, too.
But the editor that replaced, is the guy that edited his next 3 movies, Fred Raskin.
Fred Raskin, yeah.
While yeah, you know, he's doing a competent job, but he also comes from a world where he's also the editor of Fast and Furious 5, like Fast 5.
Yeah, he also did the 3rd one too.
Both Guardians of the Galaxy movies.
He edited Guardians of the Galaxy? Oh my god. And he did Bone Tomahawk. You ever seen Bone Tomahawk?
No, actually I haven't seen that yet.
Yeah, I watched it like a week ago. It's got like Kurt Russell, and they're like, oh my god, he edited Bone Tomahawk, and he also did Hateful Eight the same year. That's crazy, because I actually like Bone... I'll get into Hateful Eight later, but like, yeah. This guy works... Oh, and he's doing the Suicide Squad movie too, wow. What a crazy career. He's worked with like Nolan and PTA and Lloyd Kaufman. Billy Bob Thornton, wow. Oh, he edited Hard 8. That's nuts. We were just talking about that a while ago.
Yeah.
That's crazy. Wow, what a substantial career he's had. I mean, he's no slouch behind the editing booth. I wouldn't say that. I just think like
no, he was the post-production assistant for Hard 8.
Oh, well, he's still working for it, so that's interesting. Huh. So, Django Unchained.
So let's keep moving it on. We got 3 more.
Yeah, we're not done yet. So Django Unchained, aka Inglorious Basterds Part 2. Because it's another revisionist history movie where a former slave and a bounty hunter team up and start doing bounties and making lots of money on the side. And Django's biggest thing he wants to do is he wants revenge, and he also wants to save his lady. He wants to save his lady from the perilous clutches of Calvin Candy.
Oh, Calvin Candy, the most despicable character, one of the most despicable fucking characters I've ever seen in any movie.
I was gonna say there's a lot of them in Tarantino works, but yeah, he's pretty bad. What a cast, though! Holy shit!
What fucking person brings out an actual human skull and diagrams on the skull on why white people are more superior than black people by showing a certain type of dimples that are in the skull?
Yeah. A single skull, too.
Literally, that is like an awful thing to do. But it leads to a very tense Leo scene where, like, he actually, like, breaks the glass and cuts his own hand. And doesn't he, like, rub it all of Kerry Washington's face?
Yeah, he really got into the scene, and you can tell she's grossed out, and she's, like, trying to keep along with him, too. That's just Leo being Leo, but my god.
But no, Django Unchained, I love it. It's a lot of fun.
Oh, yeah, that's great.
It's definitely the most, I don't know, it's either between this or Hollywood of being the more accessible Tarantino movie.
Oh, that's interesting. You find Hollywood accessible. We'll talk more about that later, but yeah.
Actually, no, I retract that a bit. No, I think Django is the most.
Yeah, I'm just thinking about length-wise. Some people are turned off by that when it comes to Hollywood, but like, yeah, I mean, this is his highest-grossing film, Django Unchained, still to this day. So it reached a pretty wide appeal. This is like him at the top of his game here. After this,
it's definitely like I like the way that it portrays Django as a character as like literally this like folklore, kind of tale. It's like the stories of Django back then. Like it has a very like old folksy storytell kind of drive to it.
Yeah.
It does feels its length a little bit by the end, but not too bad.
Yeah, I gotta say.
I think it peaked a little too early than it did, as it did naturally when it ended.
Yeah, I heard a lot of people in film school complain about that. I almost think it's like a 4-act structure movie, because, like, you think by the end of the 3rd act he's gonna get his lady, he's gonna leave Candyland behind, maybe there'll be a big shootout, and there is a shootout, for God's sakes, but then it doesn't end in Django's favor, and then there's almost an entire act of him, like, reclaiming himself without the help of Schultz, because Schultz got killed, and then he has to go out and destroy Candyland single-handedly.
Yeah.
That was pretty great stuff. No, Jamie Foxx is great, and his chemistry with Christoph Waltz is excellent.
Oh, yeah, absolutely.
And even though
Jamie Foxx has really good facial expression acting in this.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, because he doesn't speak a whole lot.
Well, he can't. He's in a time where he can't.
Yeah, because he's uneducated. He's been brought up in a harsh world, and all he can do is speak with his actions. But it's great.
Yeah, the scene that always fucking kills me is all those Ku Klux Klan guys.
I was just about to bring that up. Yeah, I love that scene.
They're all arguing about the fucking hoods.
I can't see shit in this fucking thing.
I can't see shit in this fucking thing.
And then Jonah Hill's there. He actually, I ripped it.
I love how both Channing Tatum and Jonah Hill just pop into a Tarantino movie.
Yeah, because there was this and then Hateful Eight and the next one. Yeah, the 21 Jump Street guys. Yeah. No, I like Jonah Hill's little bit in it. He's just there, and he's funny. And I love how the guy's like, all right, well, none of you like this mask? Good, fuck all y'all. Me and my wife spent all evening making them for you ungrateful bastards. It's like, okay, so we can all admit the masks were a nice incentive. Maybe we can work on them later. But for now, let's get them sons of bitches. And they rush in, and they overturn the wagon. They do all this shit. And then, 5 miles away, Schultz and his rival's just like, off we descend. Shoots a bomb in the tooth. Kills everyone.
I was really surprised at how much the soundtrack in this movie worked.
It's
very
weird
well.
too because there's a lot of anachronistic choices. Like there's hip hop, there's like Johnny Cash. It's all that. It doesn't fit the time period at all, but it fits the mood so perfectly.
It fits the tone so well. It may not fit the time period, but it's so effective by its use of it. Because again, like this is sort of a fantasy world. But what's so interesting is that he treats the brutality realistically, but he treats the heroism of Django very like rewarding and over the top and great. Like that's the Tarantino over the top gore that we all know and love.
Well, it's like you said.
I just love how it's contrasted by like actual depictions on how they treated black people back then, and it's treated raw and it's treated real. Like it's wonderful. Yeah, it makes those heroic moments feel way more earned.
Well, it's like you said. Like in this era, like all the bad people are treated like idiots or like just flat out. Like there's no redeeming qualities in any of them, and you just want to see them get their comeuppance in the end. But when it's like when the people who are being marginalized or being abused are treated like it's dead serious. Like it's not played for laughs or anything. It's very 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 traumatic stuff that's being shown in the most honest way that it can be, which is nice. I gotta say, like Django Unchained is like really high up there for me too. I'd say like I think I like Inglorious Basterds like slightly more, but I always feel like I'm in a crossroads with the both of them. I always have to pick one or the other on which one I like more.
Inglorious Basterds is a far better like film, like a movie, like the filmmaking and just everything that it goes for. I just think I have a lot more fun watching Django.
It's a fun one. I need to rewatch it sometime. I think it's one of the few I don't own. I'll have to get around to that sometime. But yes, Django Unchained is quite a ride.
Yeah, absolutely.
Yeah. So I guess we gotta move on to the next one. Another period piece, another western, another one set with bounty hunters. None other than his 8th film, The Hateful Eight. I'm not gonna lie, I don't have any sort of opinion on this movie. I have a very hard time talking about it.
Yeah, okay. I'm happy that I'm not the only person here because
I was disappointed, to be perfectly honest.
I think because again this could be another Jackie Brown situation because you come off of such a high of both Pulp Fiction and Django that you expect to see more of the same. I do appreciate that The Hateful Eight returns back to like the simplistic roots of like Dogs.
It is a lot like Reservoir Dogs. I noticed that too.
Just a few people in one room just trying to figure out who's the fucker here that's causing problems.
Yeah. But instead of one rat, it might be the entire room of rats.
Yes.
It's an inversion.
It's definitely his best presented movie. I love the way it's shot in this. It's very crisp. It's very well made. The framing and just the sheer lighting of it, and the not even the lighting, I would just say, is just the beautiful landscape shots and how it can make most of the scenes that would probably be, I wouldn't say boring, but a lot more slower. He makes them interesting by just the way that he shoots them.
Yeah, but, I mean, like it's shot on motherfucking 70mm film. Yeah. That was a format that hardly any film used at that time. It was like being picked up from the dust. In fact, that was a different movie. There's only like a handful of movies that are even shot on 70mm. It's like super hard to use, but the payoff is that you get these incredible images on such an interesting aspect ratio that feels like uber cinematic, like more so than like just 35mm. But like,
did you see this movie in the theater?
I saw it in a small theater. I did not see the roadshow presentation, and I'm kind of kicking myself because I feel like if I had, maybe it would have added to the experience. I do not know, and I never will because it was a once in a lifetime.
My biggest regret of my life is not only that did I not see this in theater, I I just decided to watch an Oscar screener of it.
An Oscar screener? What does that mean?
Like, you know how when like people share those like screeners for like critics to like watch a film earlier to judge before festivals and before award ceremonies come out?
Oh, okay.
Like some HD quality ones kind of leak online, and yeah, like I got my hands on one because of a friend of mine, and it was the biggest mistake of my life because I was watching it going like, man, I wish I would have been in the theater watching this. They got like an intermission. The shots look so fucking beautiful. Like,
it came with a playbill and everything. There's like an oeuvre. There's like a not oeuvre. There's an intro where you just sit there and it just plays the songs. The music, hands down, is like probably my favorite aspect of this movie. It's all composed by Ennio Morricone, the late Ennio Morricone, unfortunately. And it was like the first time he's done a Western in like 30 years or something like that.
Yeah, isn't it crazy how, like, okay, imagine this. Tarantino, he's been on the record as saying, like, his favorite film of all time is The Good, the Bad, and the Ugly.
Oh, yeah. Totally believe that.
Imagine that composer coming, like, back years later to do your own Western. And he also does an amazing job scoring it.
Well, I mean, he's used tracks by Ennio Morricone before, like he did it in Inglorious Basterds. There's a few tracks from his earlier days. Like he used like samples from him. This is him actually having the man sit down. And you know the theme in Hateful Eight. You know that creepy insidious sound like dun 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 dun. You know what? That's not even an original score. It's unused. It's an unused recording from John Carpenter's The Thing.
Really?
Yeah, it's not an original score from the piece. It's just something that Tarantino wanted to use from John Carpenter's The Thing. And you're probably gonna raise an eyebrow when I tell you the name of the track, but the name of the track is Bestiality. Yeah, but that's my favorite track in the film for sure. Like, it always plays when shit goes wrong, someone's dying, horrible blood is being sprayed everywhere. Like when they drink the tainted coffee. It's like, it's the coffee! And Walton Goggins is like, oh fuck. Throws his cup. And everyone's just hurling blood. That was hard to watch. I am a desensitized person. I typically am not all that fazed by violence anymore. But, like, Hatefully, it's kind of hard to watch.
Oh, the poison coffee.
The poison coffee, Daisy Domergue getting punched and, like, being covered in her brother's blood and people getting shot. The Mexican's head getting shot to pieces. Yeah, just, like, I think this is Tarantino at his most sadistic, if I'm being honest. Like, Kill Bill was fun violence, you know? It's like, it's all over the top. There's like sprinklers of blood coming out of people's heads. But this one, it's like grisly. It's like
I think it's these situations where if you're gonna make a movie that takes place in one room the whole movie, you got to make it interesting. Mm-hmm. And Hateful Eight isn't. It's not like it's completely uninteresting. It's just sort of half full, half measured. Mm-hmm. You know, like I don't know. I don't get a drive to want to revisit it again, other than just to admire the filmmaking in it.
Yeah, no, that's the thing. The technical aspects are excellent. I totally agree with you.
Saving grace in it.
Yeah, I didn't even really feel much by the end of it. Like, I know how you felt like when you saw Reservoir Dogs, and you're like, well, what was the point of all that? That's exactly what I said by the end of Hateful Eight, when, like, yeah, they're all pretty much dead. None of them are going to survive this encounter.
I hadn't even thought of that. Yeah, my initial thoughts about Dogs is kind of how I lastingly feel about Hateful Eight.
I don't know if, unlike Jackie Brown, if this is going to grow on me or not, because I've watched it 4 times. And I don't know if you got your hands on this, but if you went to the U.S., on U.S. Netflix, they have the Roadshow edition, like the 4-hour miniseries of Hateful Eight. Did you ever manage to get your eyes on that?
No, actually I haven't yet. Oh.
It's not worth it. That's all I gotta say. It's not really worth it. I watched the entire thing on the road, and by the time I was done, I was like, there was like one scene that should have been in the original cut, but everything else was so superfluous. I did not give it. Like, I already hate long movies. Like, I'm not a fan of anything that gets into like the 3 hour mark unless it's really, really, really good.
Yeah.
But like a 4 hour Hateful Eight, which is a movie that I'm not even all that passionate about as it is, to watch it again as a 4 hour cut and try to justify the length, I couldn't. There's only like one thing that I think actually should have stayed in the theatrical cut, and that's not very good. So yeah, I don't have the greatest. I have a few misgivings about the Hateful Eight. Like we said, it's very well done. It's not Tarantino being lazy, but I think, as you said in the beginning of this episode, this is him at probably his most complacent.
Yeah, he sort of just is like, I wouldn't say playing it safe. It's just he's staying within his own little sandbox, and he's just sort of giving us what we expect, but he's not necessarily reaching. That's kind of happened. It's been a trend with a lot of directors I admire. Like sure, Fincher is gonna forever and always just do crime dramas,
basically.
Yeah, or he'll spread, or maybe he'll do an off kind of an off subject matter that works well. But it's just been a trend with like some directors where they just once they kind of come into their own or find out what their successful niches, they just kind of coast on that.
Yeah, I'm entitled to agree. I do think that I think that's just how it is when you get older. Like, unless you're like George Miller or somebody, like, I think you just kind of like you start to lose your luster, I suppose.
Yeah.
And I think that's why Tarantino has stated time and time again that he's only going to make 10 movies, and that's what makes this next one kind of a bit of a melancholy experience for me. But I guess, have we said all we need to say about Hateful Eight? I'm ready to move on if you are.
Yeah, because this is going to be a very controversial opinion of mine of when we talk about Once Upon a Time in Hollywood.
Okay, spill it. What do you want to say?
This is officially the finale of Tarantino.
Oh, you think so?
I think this is a wonderful movie that, again, like, I saw it the first time. I thought I liked it. I know I said I liked it, but I'm like, I thought to myself, there's something missing from this movie, and I don't know what it is. And maybe it was just a lack of what was he trying to say with this movie. But when I watched it again, knowing a little bit more about the Manson murder context that he was going for, I loved exactly what he was going for, and it echoed a lot of things from Bastards. But the fact that this movie came out exactly, like, it came out in 2019, and this was like a year where we were ending like the 2010s, right?
Yeah.
And this was like, at least for like you, me, and all of our colleagues that are in filmmaking, like, this was like, this past decade was the decade that we all were branching off trying to find our taste and our love for movies, right? Like, we spent an entire decade from everything from frickin' Social Network going all the way to Parasite.
My God.
We got 10 whole years of just discovering, independent films and just slowly watching Hollywood blockbusters burn to the ground, and it felt like the ending of an era. And this movie is the celebration of an end of an era, and it happens to be the era that influenced Tarantino as a filmmaker, primarily.
Yeah.
And I don't know. I think I'm going to echo a few things that I think Red Letter Media pointed this out, is that this might be the last movie that anyone will ever see based on the Hollywood stardom that's on screen. Like, I want to go see this movie because it's got Brad Pitt and Leonardo DiCaprio and all the star power in it. That's dead now.
I noticed that, yeah. Because now
especially with COVID kind of messing things up with, like, not being able to go to the movie theater anymore. But, like, I find that, like, when is that ever going to happen again? Or when are you going to reach a movie stardom power as much as like that, where you got Margot Robbie and all these actor alumni that are in there, like Al Pacino, and just that's just my opinion. I think this is if you want to count Kill Bill Volume 2 as like another film, Hollywood is technically his 10th movie.
I gotta say, yeah, if this was his swan song, I'd be more than happy with that. And
there you go, swan song.
Yeah, swan song is a good word for it.
That also happened even with Scorsese the same year with The Irishman.
Yeah, that would be another good. If he wants to stop, he ended on a pretty good note. I won't contest that.
A celebration of like that actor's filmography, but it's also delivering one last classic.
Yeah, because I noticed one thing with 2020 that I kind of realized that we're gonna start just using streaming from now on, because now that COVID, with all these theaters that I used to love, they're shutting down, and Cineplex probably won't last much longer if it carries on like this for another year or two. Eventually, we're just going to be, like, soaked into convenience. And I know Netflix, I don't know if you saw this trailer, Netflix is, like, going to release a movie distributed by them every single week of this year now. And they're going to have, like, you know, Melissa McCarthy and Dwayne The Rock Johnson. And there's just, like, a bunch of people just doing a bunch of, like, kind of generic, just genre films now. And it just feels like streaming's, like, taking over. And it's not so much the draw of people in it, it's more just the draw of the convenience of being like, oh, well, I'm not doing anything today, I'll just sit and watch this. So I kind of see what you mean by that. Where it's like the last of, like, big stars attracting attention. Like, even Tarantino himself, his name draws attention, so it gathers, like, an audience.
Yeah.
I'm so glad this didn't come out in 2020. I'll say that much.
Oh, geez, yeah, me too.
How many times did you see? How many times?
Sorry, I kind of tangented a bit, but like,
okay.
I want to hear what you think of the movie, actually.
Okay. Yeah, and then I'll talk about like a few other things. But yeah. Oh boy, I was so hyped to see this because I didn't really know what it was about. The trailers were kind of esoteric in a way. It didn't delve into plot details. All I knew was like Sharon Tate and all that. And yeah. I am nearly 26 years old. My friends are older than me. All of them are older than me, and I was the only one who knew anything, any damn thing about Charles Manson, and Sharon Tate.
I didn't know it.
Fuck.
And yeah, that was probably when I first saw it. I was kind of like, why are they focusing so much on Margot Robbie and she's not doing anything? But now, after I did the research and I rewatched the movie, and I go, oh, I get it.
Yeah. And my girlfriend was like, she had no idea what was going on. She had no idea who the people were, like who the villain was. Like, what was the deal with Charlie? Why is everyone talking about Charlie? We hardly ever saw him. And then, like, her parents, like, only her dad knew anything about Charles Manson and what he did. And that surprises me because, like, in the 2000s or the 90s, everyone was talking about Charles Manson. Oh, he's the most evil serial killer of all time. And I'm like, he's technically not a serial killer. He didn't kill much of anyone. It was his followers that did most of the work for him. He was a cult leader, for sure. But serial killer is a bit of a stretch. And I think that title kind of, like, rescinded by the time the 2010s rolled around. So I was the only one who actually had any inkling of an idea of what was going on. Like, he was friends with Dennis Wilson of the Beach Boys. He was trying to get into Hollywood. He was trying to be a musician, even though he had, like, chronic stage fright and all this. And, like, I knew about him. And it's kind of funny they got the guy who played him so well in Mindhunter Season 2 to reprise his role. And I thought...
reprise his role. Or no, he's just basically typecast now as the Manson lookalike.
Sure, yeah. You gotta do something. Everyone's got a thing. Yeah. I am not turned off by the length as much as most people are. I remember I could just sit and take in all the little details that this film had. I was especially impressed with the sound design. Anytime Cliff is driving and you hear, like, radio spots and, like, ads and, like, songs all minced together perfectly, and there's always, like, that kind of sound effect whenever he turns the radio station. And that's I always thought that was so cool, and I was surprised it didn't win, like, mixing or editing or anything. I thought that was surprising.
Production design definitely deserves.
Holy fuck! Like, the fact of the matter is they had to, like, transform, like, entire streets into the 60s. Like, downtown areas are just completely paved the way.
Was authentic? It's so good.
Damn, yeah. So many people say, and that's the problem. A lot of people say, yeah, it looks like the 60s, but I don't care about the story. And I don't think you're really intended to. I think it's just like a hangout movie where you're spending time with these two actors, Or sorry, one actor and his stuntman. Just saying, and so once again, Tarantino loves his stunt people. I remember when this came out, after this movie came out, so many stuntmen and women came up front and said, I think there should be a category for best stunts. And I think like we should really get our moment to shine, because we're putting our lives on the line and we're pulling off these impeccably practical stunts that take a lot of consideration and forethought before we can even do it. And it's all about safety, it's all about regulation. But at the end of the day, we go and do this incredibly dangerous thing for the sake of entertainment, and I think we should have some sort of like accolade for that. There should be like a category.
They've been saying this for years about the industry on how not only trying to get stunt acting to have its own category, but also casting and there's a few others. But I mean, fucking Academy Awards, like they're just it's political and it's very.
Well, Tom Cruise would just try even harder to try and kill himself just to win an Academy Award.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah, so there's that.
No, anyways.
Sorry, despite the lack of a plot, I'm always engaged. I feel so many it's so weird because most Tarantino movies are driven by revenge or like the big score or some plot device or like even a MacGuffin. But for this, there's not much. It's just like it's a slice of life basically of like a waning actor and his super loyal stuntman. And it's so nice to see like Leo and Brad like play off each other. You can tell they come off like best friends. Like they even do like one simple scene where they're just sitting there watching TV, and it's just an old episode that Rick Dalton did, and they're just like having a little commentary, a little couch commentary on it.
I love that shot where he just like quickly leans forward and like snaps his fingers and points at the screen like, "Watch out for this moment."
Yeah, that became a meme. Oh my god, Leo Tarantino and memes. Oh my god.
Oh geez, well even Candy.
The Candy meme.
Where he's like, yeah, that's on screen
that's
there.
Funny as hell.
But the second time I watched this movie, I actually got a little deeper within what all three of the main characters are representing. Where Margot Robbie, Sharon Tate represents like she's like that symbol of that time of success and happiness and embracing that time basically.
Yeah.
And
living it up in the Playboy Mansion, yeah.
And then Rick Dalton.
Rick Dalton.
Leo's character represents like he just wants more. He's just he's striving to get up to like that status of Sharon Tate. But then you got Brad Pitt, that just loves to live in the moment and just loves where he's at. He has no ambition. He's just living it. That's it. Yeah.
Some people can really enjoy themselves in that. They don't worry about a thing.
Yeah. I love how the three archetypes of all the characters represent basically what people were striving for at that time.
Yeah. Yeah. There's so many like I remember like there was this one there were a few controversies. I remember the Bruce Lee controversy. Did you hear about that? Where like his estate, his wife complained that his widow complained that they did a really bad job presenting him, like it wasn't accurate and it was like disrespectful or something. And
I reject your hypothesis.
I mean, in a movie where the Mansons get killed by a dog and a flamethrower, accuracy maybe is a little bit like, I don't know. I think the whole reason why Cliff and him and Bruce Lee butt heads is that like Bruce Lee is kind of being a little cocksure. He's like, if I fight, I kill. It's like if I kill, I go to jail. If you kill anybody, you go to jail. Like he kind of just thinks he's kind of full of like. He thinks he's pretentious.
The Manson murders. I mean, you can
that bit.
Going back, it's a fantasy. I mean, it's right there in the title. Once upon a time in Hollywood. Like, yeah. It's like it's a fairy tale.
I mean, I can't speak for like Asian representation. I can't say like I did have some friends who were like offended. They actually straight up said they wouldn't see the movie because of how Bruce Lee was portrayed. And I thought.
So it was because he wasn't portrayed like. Authentically or
like it almost felt like a caricature or something, I suppose.
Oh, okay. Well, I mean, it was. I can totally understand that, but like, it was only one quick scene that he needed to be in the movie.
Yeah, and the guy who played him, I thought, did a really strong job, like
Yeah.
imitating his fight style and everything. I'm not even the biggest Bruce Lee fan. I've only seen one of his movies, so
Yeah.
I can't quantify.
Was it Enter the Dragon?
It was Enter the Dragon, yes.
Yeah, I've seen that too. That's the only one.
I need to say Game of Death. You know, like the one with the Kill Bill suit, the track suit, the yellow and black bumblebee
But as
thing.
far as the controversy at the end with like the all the hippies getting like
Oh yeah, and some people thought like it's a little misogynist because Cliff really he's very brutal towards the females, and there's even like a scene early in the movie where it's implied that he may have murdered his own wife on the boat.
Well, I just reject your hypothesis.
I reject your hypothesis. Why doesn't Margot Robbie have enough lines? Why do you not give her a voice? I reject your hypothesis.
It's like, okay, clearly that reporter didn't understand the point of Sharon Tate's role in the movie.
Yeah.
Where, again, Tarantino has that respect for his audience. They know, well, at least for the most part, I guess not me, going into it, knowing the history behind it.
Mm-hmm.
And, again, she's representing that time, and her giving that sense of hope at the end for Rick's character, that was the sense of purpose. That's sort of the history that we wish would have happened.
Yeah.
We wanted to live on.
I think at the end of the day...
She was an innocent, pregnant woman. And we all know that story. And instead of actually seeing it represented on screen again, why don't we see something that we wanted to happen? These fucking hippies, like, getting brutally murdered instead. In the most over-the-top way.
Yeah.
It's like, this isn't based on a true story. It's just a fantasy about Hollywood.
I think at the end of the day, like, the way I see it is, it doesn't matter how many lines you have, it's still a performance.
Yeah, exactly.
Like, it could have been so much worse. Like, did you hear, like, that movie that came out afterwards, like, The Haunting of Sharon Tate with Hilary Duff?
Oh, God, I saw the trailer for that, and I went, how disgusting. Okay, if
it's
this
slimy.
was a controversial film, then I'm surprised.
And then the director followed it up by making a movie about the OJ murders, or like the OJ trial. Where he actually did it or some shit. I don't know.
Yeah. They take like real life tragedies and turn them
Nicole
into like
Sullivan,
slasher films.
Yeah, and it's
so
just slimy, you know, like not nearly as respectful as this. I'm glad that the Tate estate, try saying that 10 times fast, was like very they were pretty accommodating with this movie, and like I can imagine it was a very tough subject matter, but I think Tarantino handles it rather respectfully. And I think that's why the ending, I was saying how this was a melancholy experience, and it's sad for me for two reasons. First of all, it's a fantasy. It's not actually how it played out. I was tense in the third act because I wasn't sure if they was going to do an Inglorious Basterds thing where he rewrites history, or if he's just going to play out how it actually happens, and Rick and Cliff just kind of stare in horror as they witness it all play out.
I'm so happy that Flamethrower came back.
Everyone asked for fried sauerkraut! Oh my god.
You had an excellent point, and I think I'll now categorize this movie as it is a hangout movie. I never even realized that.
Well, I hear that term thrown around a lot when it comes to this, but to end my point,
I love hanging out with Sharon Tate at the movie theater, watching herself.
Yeah.
I love watching Cliff go to this one ranch. It takes like 20 to 30 minutes just for him to say hello to an old friend.
Well, the point of that though, that's where the Mansons lived.
Yeah.
That's...
Well, the first time I was like, what? Why are we here? What is happening? And then after watching knowing the history, I went. Yeah.
But to wrap up my point where I said like why this movie's sad for me, so I said first because it's a fantasy. It's not really how it turned out, and it's unfortunate that it had to be. It's like when you really look at the tragic real story, it's really sad. But the second reason is like, I know this Tarantino only has one more film left, and then he's done. So this is his second last effort. And unless, fate decides to turn an ugly hand and, something happens to him before he makes his final movie. Knock on wood.
Yeah.
we're gonna talk about that at the end this podcast. But anyways, yeah. How many times did you see this movie, Cody? Like, how many times in theaters?
I only saw it once in theaters, and I rewatched it twice. So it's definitely way more fresh in my mind than most of his movies. Well, that's not necessarily, but just it's just way more memorable than I was expecting it. You know.
No, I watched this movie twice in theaters, and it could have been 3 times. The second time I tried to see it, I don't like Cineplex. I don't like going to big theaters. I like supporting local theaters, so I always go to these like Imagine Cinemas places in Toronto. That's my go-to. Problem is, they're cramped and there's not a lot of seats. So when I went to this place the second time, there was no seats. There's only one, and it was in the corner of the front row. So I'm like, the first time I watched it, I'm not.
The sucker seats, as I call them.
Yeah, I didn't get in early enough, and like it's like I'm not watching a screen, I'm watching a parallelogram. Like the angle's horrible. I'm thinking to myself, I don't want to sit here for 3 hours hurting my neck to see a movie that I want to get the full experience. So I had to leave, and then I got a voucher, and then I just went another day, and I saw it again. It was just as good as I remembered it. So yeah, bottom line, if I get a sucker seat for a 3-hour movie, I'm not putting myself through that. Yeah. So I think we should maybe like wrap this up with a question. As we're both Tarantino like fans, so Cody, what would you like his last film to be if he makes his final 10th movie?
Plain and simple, an original great film.
That's all you could ask for.
I like I said before, like he's breathing life into movies still, and I hope that he's remembered and cherished like the man he should be, because this day and age in movies, like, you're gonna have to dig deep for movies that aren't based on something, because we live today in a world where once something is so big and cherished, it's exploited, and sequels and sequels and sequels and love just run it all to the ground, and you just get annoyed. But then there's people like Tarantino that still breathes, like, it's like literally a breath of fresh air every time I watch his movies.
Mm-hmm.
Despite whatever subject matter he does, and even if it takes me a second viewing to really appreciate what it is, I love watching filmmaking just unfold in front of my eyes when I watch this crazy foot fetish motherfucker
who can't act.
But he cannot act.
He can write. Have you ever seen that cameo he did on the Golden Girls?
No.
He plays. Okay, so like they get a bunch of Elvis impersonators, and they're all lined up in rows, and he's dancing. He's not even really doing a good job. It feels like he really doesn't want to be there. He's just going. It's so funny, but yeah, just don't be on screen. Like, just be behind the camera. Just do your best, because you're great. You're excellent at writing. You're excellent at directing. And if I had to say, so I guess you don't want his last movie to be a Star Trek movie like a lot of fans want, or what he wants.
God, no.
No, I don't want that either.
No.
He loves Star Trek, apparently. I don't know. Why don't just do an episode? Work on television. He's done television. He did some CSI, I think. I forget, some cop show. You know, like procedural.
If he ends up directing like a Star Trek episode, it might be the best Star Trek episode of this decade, because I apparently, like, all the Star Trek shows that are on CBS are just trash. So.
Yeah, like Discovery and like Picard. Yeah.
Yeah.
Where the hell?
He might make the best episode, but yeah, do that. Don't make a fucking movie.
Yeah,
man.
Yeah, don't dedicate your time on a movie. Just do an episode. That'd be fine. That'd be a good compromise.
You have to, sure, but like, honestly, like, yeah, the Swan Song, like, Once Upon a Time in Hollywood feels like a nice, like,
Yeah, but I don't know,
everything from him coming on screen in Dogs, talking about what Like a Virgin's about, closing up all the way to like Cliff or to Rick getting invited into the Sharon Tate's house at the end. It's like that's the course of action of Tarantino right there.
That'd be nice. I don't know, like when I keep thinking about his last movie, for some reason and maybe it's just nostalgia talking, but I feel like it'd be nice if he went back into the modern era. The last time he did that was technically Death Proof, but even that's just kind of like 70s slodge. Like, homage, I mean. But, like, I don't know, like, if he made, like... I guess I'm just vying for another Pulp Fiction or some 4-hour crime thing, but I know deep down it's a road he's worn out long ago in the early days of his career. We're never gonna get another Pulp Fiction. It's kind of like all these Star Wars sequels. We want more of the same thing, but that's not what Tarantino delivers. But in my mind, I just keep imagining him getting this 4-hour crime film together. He gets like almost every actor he's ever worked with: Keitel, maybe even Buscemi, Roth, Madsen, Samuel Jackson, all these people that he's worked with, even maybe Willis, maybe not Bruce Willis, but like all these people, maybe even Uma Thurman. Oh yeah, we never did talk about what happened to Uma Thurman. Basically, during the filming of Kill Bill Volume 2, she had to do her own driving stunt, and she kind of warned Tarantino, like, I'm kind of worried, like, what if I accidentally get in an accident? He's like, no, just do it. Like, he was kind of being argumentative for some reason. And, like, she ended up getting in an accident, hurting herself, and that really soured things between the two of them. Like, they stopped. That's why you don't see them together too much anymore. But it seems like they're cool now.
I mean, as much as, like, he did apologize and say that was wrong, that monster Weinstein did way worse things to her than...
Oh, it was the Weinstein? Yeah, because, like, when you watch his movies, there's a lot of Weinstein in the opening credits.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And actually, I think I remember Tarantino saying, because Tarantino was aware of everything that Weinstein was doing at the time, but couldn't really say anything because he was so fresh into Hollywood. But I remember seeing this article where Uma Thurman was talking about what Weinstein was doing to her, and Tarantino said, "You better apologize for what you did to her, or else I'm not filming the rest of this movie." And that was Kill Bill.
Oh yeah, like he's saying, like, he was dating Mira Sorvino at the time, somewhere in the mid-90s, and then he did confront Weinstein, and Weinstein apologized, but, like, you know, that's not very good enough. Like, he was still up there doing that shit.
Yeah. No, I hope they patch together. I've always said they should just get married, Tarantino and Uma Thurman.
Yeah, I mean, like, that's why everyone wants fucking Kill Bill Volume 3, I guess. But that's what I mean. Like, just get this... If it's like if it's just like a mixing pot of everything he's done up until this point, like a final last hurrah of his cinema, then that's just what I fantasize about. But I mean, at the end of the day, he can do whatever the hell he wants. He's Tarantino.
The same cast, like all of his regulars, but make the story take place in space.
That sounds like it was like the second Machete movie. Like, at the end of that, it's like, we're gonna have Machete kills in space. No, I don't know. Like, I can't even imagine Tarantino doing a science fiction film. But, like, I don't know. Like, he can do whatever he wants. But at the end of the day, like, I'm always gonna have this movie in the back of my head, like the Vega Brothers or Kill Bill Volume 3, where it's not gonna happen. It's too predictable, and it's too much. It's too much like. It's too complacent for him, but, like, I just want something other than a period piece, I guess. That's what I want. I want something else.
Sure.
That's, like, my one little complaint is, like, if it's another period piece, I'm gonna be like, alright, fine. But, like, you've done, like, this is your 5th one now, so, like, this is, like, half your career.
Yeah.
Okay.
Maybe if he is gonna make a 10th and final film, push yourself more to make something where you're like, holy shit. This is, like, different than anything you've ever done, and it's amazing.
Yeah, for sure.
Yeah.
So you don't have any compunction about what genre he wants to do, particularly. You just want it to be good.
Yeah, of course.
That's all we can ask for. Just make it good.
Just make it great. Not good. Make it great.
Would be nice to end on a high note, for sure.
Yeah.
No pressure.
Yeah.
But he knows what he's doing. So, I think... that's enough of that. We've said all we need to say about the man, Tarantino. He's great. If you have never seen his movies before, I hope we've enlightened you. I mean, we kind of spoiled the shit out of most of them, but
yeah,
I'll put a spoiler warning. I don't know, but, like, bottom line, we really like his career. We like how successful he has been. We like all his, like, trademarks and little quirks that he puts into his work. And yeah. I don't know if there was any other like filmmaker that you'd want to do another podcast on. Let me know. And Tarantino is obviously my guy, but like people even say I kind of look like him. I don't know if that's a compliment or not.
No. You're more good looking than Tarantino.
Aw, thanks, sweetie. Thanks.
Whoever said that is doing a great disservice to you.
I know. Like that's why I feel awkward when they say that. But anyways, yeah. Thanks for joining us on So to Speak. This is another long one, but hey, I had a ton of fun talking about this with you, Cody. And thanks.
Yeah, this was a lot of fun.
Thanks for joining me.
Laid back, just kind of shooting the shit about, just a guy's filmography,
Yeah, sounds great. All right, everyone.
I think we should be leaving now.
Yeah, that's probably a good idea.